Fuck it. We'll do it live.
History man? A word burger, please. Tears.
Human tears. The secretions of the lacrimal gland containing oil, salts, proteins, and stress hormones.
When Furiosa came out this May, it was ultimately compared unfavorably to Fury Road, widely seen as an absolute masterpiece in the Mad Max universe. This makes sense as Furiosa is the same character from Fury Road, although now played by Anya Taylor-Joy instead of Charlize Theron. And we're in the same locations as all these other characters, the Citadel, still run by Immortan Joe and his sons, the Bullet Farm, Gastown. Some of the same actors, Josh Hellman, Nathan Jones, John Howard, Angus Simpson, are here as various characters in the Fury Road universe. One character who is a through line here that had to be recast is Immortan Joe, since Hugh Case Byrne, who also played the villain Toe Cutter in the original Mad Max, passed away in 2022. However, since Furiosa is a prequel that aims to situate Fury Road, I think a more apt film to compare it to ultimately is the original Mad Max, the 1979 dystopian George Miller film starring Mel Gibson as Max. Hatched in the wake of the OPEC crisis and oil embargo in 1973, Mad Max has always been a franchise steeped in anxiety about resource depletion and the fallout from shortages. What will happen when the oil ultimately runs out?
We are war boys! War boys! Come on, crazy war boys! War boys! Fukushima, come on, crazy war boys! Oh God! Today we're heading to Gastown! Today we're hauling aqua cola! Mother's milk!
Fury Road adds water to the mix, realizing that as we deplete our resources, the next stage of the resource wars will be clean, fresh drinking water. The original Mad Max, however, does not really tackle these themes at all. The dystopian Australia that Mel Gibson tackles is a world where lawlessness is getting the upper hand on law enforcement. Which was shot in an insanely low $400,000 Australian dollar budget, was about road violence and the effect that it was having on Australian society. Max is a police officer in a society controlled by powerful biker gangs. George Miller and James Gosling, who he teamed up with for financing, were spending time around a ton of emergency medical services staff looking into incidents of road violence, even deciding to finance the film by doing 3 months of EMS work.
Good evening. The Middle East war produced developments all over the world today. The oil-producing countries of the Arab world decided to use their oil as a political weapon. They will reduce oil production by 5% a month until the Israelis withdraw from occupied territories. If the Arab countries keep that pledge, it would reduce their production by almost 50% in 1 year. There were diplomatic maneuvers at the United Nations, in Washington, and in Cairo. And there is a savage and possibly decisive tank battle raging in the Sinai Desert.
This was followed by the 1973 OPEC crisis and many incidents where people took to defending their rights to fill their gas tank. A basic thesis that people would do almost anything to keep traffic moving in a crisis informed the low-budget action film Mad Max. Of course, this was not really said or elaborated on until the second movie, Road Warrior.
The gangs took over the highways, ready to wage war for a tank of juice. And in this maelstrom of decay, ordinary men were battered and smashed.
Compare that to Furiosa, which is set in a world we already experienced in Fury Road.
Yes. Indeed. Compared to that. Correct. Absolutely. Okay, yeah, so here we are. That's not the intro we expected, but it's the intro we got.
Looks like we lost Forrest.
Oh yeah, let's we lost him to the Wastelands, indeed. So that's what we're talking about tonight, which is Furiosa. And looking forward to this discussion. Should be a great time. Wasn't expecting to speak right now, not gonna lie.
I'm having there's like torrential downpour outside, so I might be having internet.
I could see where that would flood the stream. Sure. No. Jared, welcome back to the show. It's been a minute.
Glad to be back. Thanks for having me.
I think this movie kicks ass.
I agree wholeheartedly.
I'm kind of surprised that it wasn't a bigger hit, because it's sort of like, what do you want out of something like this? Because this has got all of it and then some.
Apparently people wanted Fury Road again, and
give us the thing we like.
That it wasn't the exact same thing.
We only want the one thing. We're not looking for anything other than that one thing.
Change characters' outfits around a little bit, and then just film the same movie.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Instead they're going right to left instead of left to right.
I feel like I wonder how much of the rage behind people's thing is there's no Max in Furiosa, so they're angry. Yeah. They're like, the world has gone so woke in this oil depleted wasteland that they've gotten rid of Max. There's no more Max.
And when you say people, you mean incels, of course.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Certainly.
Well,
War
boys. I mean war boys.
Right. War boys. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's all just Immortan Joe on his keyboard.
The marketing, the marketing campaign for this seemed to be like, "Hey, everybody, it's out," which is like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, they should have gotten, apparently the marketing people for Longlegs should have been the people that they got. Because that movie, just whatever, they're going to be going down the Hall of Fame of marketing. Now, say less about the picture itself, but everybody's talking about it.
Yeah, whoever was in charge of that is going to get a very nice bonus.
Yeah.
The crazy thing is that there's a lot of there's a whole bunch of
get a Barbenheimer.
Yeah.
That's what you were trying to break in. I'm glad you got interrupted.
Well, I did see someone try to make the next Barbenheimer with this and the Garfield movie, what didn't quite gel.
Garfuriosa. I got nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Nope,
It doesn't quite,
I'm already out.
Doesn't quite roll off the tongue in the same way.
This is years before the noted anti-Semitism. Stevie.
Garfenheimer.
Okay, yeah.
Garfenheimer would have been awesome. The world according to Garfield. Yeah, there's all kinds of
Garfiosa or Garfiosa.
Yeah, Garfiosa is what it was.
No,
there we go.
Now I have become Mondays,
Garfuriosa. There you go. It's that fucking,
Mondays in the Wasteland are no joke, my friend. So from my perspective, just setting the tone for where I'm at, I think this is probably one of the better prequels in movie history.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
It's so well paced. Just everything about it. Everything's built up nicely. The action crescendos nicely. It has its own flavor to it as well. It's not trying to be anything else.
Right.
I think that because I watched the original trilogy just back to back. I found it interesting that the same opening from Road Warrior that they kind of they use British past kind of footage in Road Warrior, where it was just here's a bunch of people running around during World War II. Look at this. But they did a very good version of that with in the beginning
news
of this,
reports.
With the history man, and then in the background, I like that they kind of everything that happens in our world kind of gets translated into the world of Mad Max, in general. So I liked that you heard pandemics raging, climate change, you heard all the different things that are the pestilences, I guess, that we have right now that are raining down on us. You heard them in the first opening minutes of Furiosa. You're a pandemic. Yeah, cool. I lived through that.
I remember that. Yeah. Remember that? Yeah. Remember when you started a movie show during it? Yeah.
Good times.
Which, by the way, Dementus would have had the best fucking podcast out of any fucking person in the world. That would have been like, imagine his podcast in the Wasteland.
His co-host is Human Wikipedia that hangs out with him.
Yeah. Well, that's the producer. Like, like they do.
Right.
Like Joe, he's like the Joe Rogan, and then he's like, Jamie, pull that up, and then the history man has to go like, the thing you are looking for is, and then
No, he's not so much of an on-air personality. It's just like he's around for like color commentary and to explain things, just as he does in the movie.
He doesn't want to spread misinformation.
Right.
Yeah.
It's what Andy aspires to be. It's his vision board for a job.
Truly.
A couple of ads for Blue Chew here and there.
Yeah, I mean, it's like he is like a cross between like Alexa and Wikipedia and Ask Jeeves. Except for the Wasteland version.
I really love that the whole Wasteland. The whole Wasteland is just full of fucking, just pieces of cars, like whatever you can really find. Like you can scavenge. There's all these communities, and he chooses like, I'm gonna like, instead of like using that and using like the organic mechanic to make something, I'm gonna just have like a human Alexa. Like I'm gonna train like this old guy that follows me around that wants to be indispensable. Like he's going to be our human version of Alexa. And every time I want something, I can just go, a word burger, please, and then he has to give you like the.
So funny, but if you think about it from perspective of seriousness, when you lose what we think of as written history, what's left? Oral history, right? So from a perspective of when people talk about recording history for civilizations and things along those lines, it's like, what was the difference between the Vandals and the Romans? Well, the Romans wrote everything down in their own point of view, which of course made the Romans the heroes of everything. So a lot of times we look at lots of yeah, it is funny how that works. It's like the winner's history, right? So you have all these like Celts and folks that were considered barbarians, that like it was way better to be a woman in those societies than it was as a Roman, because you weren't even a voting citizen. Look at the Vandals, right? To this day associated with destructiveness. And it's like they provoked the Vandals for years and years, but they also wrote the history books. And so when you think about a post-apocalyptic wasteland, right? What's more valuable than knowledge? Well, not much. So if you have like the guy that just can like ad nauseum like spit out, like little factoids or whatever, sure, it's good for amusement, but from perspective of pragmatism, it can help you reestablish society and more than likely, maintain order over your people, because it's an advantage that your enemies don't have.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, like at the end of it, at the end of the
what was that, Jared? Sorry.
Like honestly, not a bad job to have in the Wasteland.
Right, exactly. It's like what does he say? Like, you can make yourself indispensable to him. Like that was like very much. Yeah.
Like, doesn't it even have to be like everything? Like, what if he had like he's got a Wikipedia? What if he's got like an IMDb? Like, I can be that guy.
Right, exactly.
Like
IMDb, and then Jared like comes running out, starts telling you obscure factoids.
1954, Kira Kurosawa.
It sounds like that sounds like a great job. Yeah, man.
At some point, they have to discover like a library of videotapes that's been like hidden under the under the rubble, and they're like, wow, a library of videotapes, and then you need someone to be like, who's that actor? I mean, it's on the tip of my tongue. Who's that actor?
Yeah. Which one of these are any good?
But I like one of the things that they mention at the end, where they're talking about like the civilizations, right? Like that whole speech about war, which is like a really good speech. It's the history man, and he's like, oh, as long as there's been human beings, has been and always, which is, I ended the intro with it, but the intro like shit out in the middle of me fucking doing it. So, but that
kind of took me back to the old days when we just had to kind of vibe and be extemporaneous. So
they talked about in that speech, the first the first civilization they mentioned is like the Sumerians. And those were the first civilization to really have like the written tablets that there's obviously like cave paintings and stuff, but like they're the first, they have like a written language that they kept records in. And I feel like that is a reason why they brought up the Sumerian, because who brings up like the Sumerians in the middle of like like you bring up the Romans, or you bring up like the Greeks, or you bring up, what I mean? Like something like that. But in this, it's very pointed that's the first civilization that they bring in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, George Miller knows his history.
He really does.
Yeah, seems like a scholar.
Well, and it's kind of played for laughs too, but like that is a useful character. I agree. It's art with words. I think a double screening of Fury Road would have definitely pushed the movie harder. I think a lot of people just kind of didn't even realize it came out. Like I have people, they're like, "Oh yeah,
I
I
know,
can't
I
wait to
didn't.
see that. When does that come out?" I'm like, "It's already gone. Like it's come and gone. Like it's over."
That
Yeah.
was me.
Something
Right.
just did not saturate the market in the way it should have.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
And it doesn't mean it a bad movie. It just means that like the marketing campaign was more or less non-existent that I saw. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying you need marketing, but like
Well, you do to a point.
you need a little bit of it. You got to let people know what's out there, right?
Yeah. You gotta let
You
people
need,
know.
you need a history man, like a movie man that comes around and tells you, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yo!
Yeah.
Come get it.
it was really like, I think it was in my local theater, but it was only in there for like a week. Like it really did not play
It
on
was-
screen very long.
It was there and gone in like, especially in the Milwaukee suburbs. But like, it was just, I was like, oh, cool, I'll see that next week. No, I won't.
Yeah.
I was like, what? Really? They already moved on? And it was like for like, whatever. It doesn't even matter. Some crap I don't care about.
I remember thinking, like, when is that movie coming out? And all of a sudden, I just see my YouTube's entirely filled up with Furiosa, a flop. And I'm like, what? Did I miss it?
See, it flopped. It flopped. They would have let Andy know about it.
Already
It
had
would've hit.
time. It's already had time to get out there and flop, and I still don't
Yeah.
know what I was saying.
What?
I find it fascinating. I was watching like clips of Anya Taylor-Joy, like her, her talking about her experience filming this, and this was filmed pretty much back to back with Dune. Like literally,
She's
finished
getting in
it,
her desert time, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they're both filmed in Namibia. Like the
So
African
this is her
country,
desert
yeah.
period?
Apparently, yeah.
Guess so, yeah.
Which is weird because she's so translucent, right? Like
I was
her
gonna say
skin
she's like the whitest white woman that ever whited too. Like, peace and love. But so it's kind of like must be using SPF 1000. What was it they used in Sundown? What was it like they Sundown? I think it was Sundown. The Vampire in Retreat with Bruce
yeah.
Campbell as the
Yeah, yeah.
Van Helsing descendant. They had like some SPF like I think it was that. Oh, well, nobody
It's
cares.
been forever
Moving on.
since I've seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about Chris Hemsworth in this because he's actually pretty awesome. like first of all, he pulled off the nose in a way that Bradley Cooper never could, frankly. But
Well, 'cause he's
he
also not-
clearly
He's not supposed to be like Jewish coded, right? Like, because there's so much scandal going on with the Bradley Cooper nose and everyone debating.
well, that's
it.
not
And
what we're
it's like-
talking about. I'm just making a nose
know.
reference. So.
Yeah.
But Chris Hemsworth, like, I mean, he's clearly someone that like he's done lots of like Black Hat and like just other things where like I want to make like adult movies, not like porno, like adult movies that I get to actually act in, and everybody who acts knows that playing a villain is like that's the move, man. That's where you get to really like turn it on and be cool. So like he's great as Dementus, like, and he's great as the character. The character's well written. He's punching a little bit over his weight class in almost everything that he does, but is like all his unearned courage and pride and confidence, and it's great. The Wasteland would be full of dudes like that.
Yeah.
And he plays it so well. Like, and he's just professionally handsome in most things. Great, good job to have. But I think he's pretty impressive here, and he's pulling a Brad Pitt, right? He's just like, hey, I can do character work too, by the way, which
Yeah,
is smart.
Also,
Letting the freak flag fly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
he's also from Melbourne. He's from Australia.
He's actually using an Australian accent too. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
he's
which
from-
is
so he's
weird because I've
from-
never seen
Yeah.
him do it.
Yeah.
So he's from, like being from Australia, like Mad Max is like a huge deal. Like it's their version of like, I mean maybe not their version of like the MCU, which he also kind of kills it in, like playing Thor. But like it's their version of like a huge action franchise that everybody really wants to be in. And he was like, I don't know, he was like overjoyed to fucking be in a Mad Max movie. And there's a clip that I saw of him talking about it where he said that Angus Sampson, who's the organic mechanic actor.
Yeah, I love him.
he
By the
ran
way.
up-
He's great.
Yeah. So he ran up to him on his first day on set and shook him and went, and he was like, how was it? How was it? Like, and he was like, yeah, I'm happy to be on set. He's like, bro, you're in a Mad Max movie. And Chris Hemsworth, like in his brain, like it clicks, like, I'm
a
like
Mad
the
Max.
villain. Yeah, like
I'm the villain in a Mad Max
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
This is awesome. Life is good.
That's the best thing to be in a Mad Max movie.
Yeah, absolutely. If you aren't actually Mad Max, who doesn't even make an appearance in this one, then it's the best one to be for sure.
Yeah.
Although
he makes an appearance. He has a
that's right. There's like one like kind of like you have to like pause the movie and there he is. He's on these. He's watching from like a cliff or whatever it is. Whatever.
From
You know what I
far away,
mean.
yeah.
You know what I mean. Don't be a dick.
Yes.
I will say, not to immediately move off Hemsworth, because I think that Dementus character is awesome, like just top to bottom. Like there's like I think this movie works incredibly well, and one of the reasons why is because of him.
Top to bottom.
Yes, exactly. Praetorian Jack, who I thought the reveal of which was going to be like, call me Max or whatever. Like, but like George Miller does not care even a little bit about like any kind of continuity, fan service, and doesn't care about anything. He's telling the story. F off. And I kind of respect that because in this era of.
He got dinged for fan service for that 1 second where you see Max at the end. Like some of the fans of this movie hit him hard, and then they were like, that's fan service. We don't want that. So if he had done the like, if he had turned to him and been like, I'm Max, like everyone would have been like, come on, man, come on, a third Max.
But sorry, Jared, go ahead.
If there is 5 seconds of fan service in like a 5-movie saga, I can live with.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. But like. Everything about Praetorian Jack is like, he handles himself just like, kind of like how like Max would, right? So it's like, I wonder if that's gonna, and then it's like sort of like, this is who Furiosa sort of learns from, to get like the road skills down, and so it makes sense for her origin story.
It's ultimately why she learns to trust Max in Fury Road too,
right?
There's an overlap there.
Yeah, and there was I read this great Reddit post that was clearly someone who had seen this movie, like 5 times by the end of it, but but like it was talking about how like the archetypes, right? Because Joseph Campbell, just like he inspired kind of Star Wars and that kind of mythology, also inspired George Miller. And they're talking about Max as kind of this archetype, that you don't actually have to be Max to be that archetype, right? Like it's just the road warrior is his own his own heroic archetype, and for Furiosa to learn from another person like that, and then it's like the thing when just as Jack dies is when you see like the Max cameo kind of like in that same moment, and it's showing like the passing of this kind of road warrior archetype that continues to exist through this universe in continuity without necessarily being Max or without being a guy named Max, like
which a lot of people were pissed off about when Fury Road came out too, because remember, it says Mad Max, he's barely in it. Well, first of all, F you, dude, but like secondly, like that idea of him being sort of like, no, this is like a hero of legend or something, like Beowulf or something along those lines, like this is, and like it doesn't matter who the actual person is, it matters what the place that they play in the story, because it is all about the story, which some of these larger franchises, they could use a little more of that, frankly.
Because there's a unreliable narrator thing going on with all these films, and this one kind of leans into it because like they reuse the same actors. In fact, the guy who plays Immortan Joe also plays one of Chris Hemsworth's henchmen.
Right, yeah.
So like there is kind of especially if you watch all of all 5 of these films, there's this weird dream quality to it, like. What is the continuity at times? Like it doesn't even make any sense because Max is supposed to be like really old in Fury Road, and yet it's played by what's his name?
Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy. Yeah.
He was born into it.
Besides Bane, I feel like Tom Hardy is one of those guys that is like, you need to say a lot. Like it might be
it's the less he says, the better he is in the role. Yeah.
It's like if he was like, here's my backstory, I am Max, and then they give you like a whole speech and be like, all right.
No, you're probably wondering how I got here.
Nope. Record scratch, exactly.
You're probably wondering why it's me playing Max and not Mel Gibson. Wow.
Let me talk to you about anti-Semitism.
Well, that's a long story, and so
Well, but I think like Toe Cutter, and then like same actor like playing Immortan Joe in Fury Road, which I think is what you were referring to, Andy, right?
Yes. And Bruce Spence played 2 roles in 2 and 3.
He just likes reusing the same people, and like he doesn't care at all if they're the same characters. Because people remember during Fury Road, I was like, did Toe Cutter become Immortan Joe? Did he survive that? And he's like, who cares? Who cares? Nobody cares. I don't care. I was like,
In fact, the actor who played Scrotus in this one was played the evil war boy in Fury Road.
That's right.
Who was with Nuts the whole time. Yeah.
There's Scrotus and there's Rectus, which was the two funny things.
Scrotus and Rectus. Inside you are two wolves.
Honestly, that's just Eric and Don Jr.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. They're in town. They're across town from me right now, Scrotus and Rectus. Yeah.
Well, his entire thing is like these kids are fucked up. I'm trying to get like a son that's not fucked up. And like their whole life is like serving a dad that's like, you are not what I wanted. You are not.
Yeah. He comes out like, you look like a scrotum. I'm going to call you Scrotus.
Yeah. I think it's what I like about the Immortan Joe family, I guess we'll call it, is that you get a sense of like in a lot of movies you have like the villain sitting there like opining and talking and like, carrying on or whatever, and that's always good for a soliloquy or something along those lines. But like, I think some of the coolest villains are like the ones that they have another dude that's like, oh, this guy's gonna like tell y'all about how badass I am. I'm gonna say like 3 words and then like, F off back over to the den.
Yeah.
where all my concubines wait or whatever. But this guy is the guy. He's letting you know what time it is and that you're going to get got because, Dementus just rolls up like he does everywhere else and is like, hey, let's go get them. And then suddenly War Boys with the hooks, which is a great scene where they're like, the hooks are coming down, like grabbing the vehicles and taking them up. And they're like, what is happening? We did not expect this. We've never encountered resistance of any kind. And this is actively crazy, But you don't see him. You see him again as a younger man. I mean, obviously, it's a different actor playing him, but like whatever. It's like I prefer that to like CGI de-aging a la.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're only seeing like this much of the dude, so
who cares? He's got a big old freaking apparatus on his face. Who gives a damn? Are you gonna get all precious about it?
Yeah. If you can do what you need to do on screen, it doesn't matter.
Well,
he did actually sneak a CG character in there. The actor who played the Bullet Farmer died a few years ago, and he's only in a couple shots, but it's a fully CGI creation. Like it's just kind of blink and you miss it.
So to finish the point that I was going to say, I love that in that conflict you get like really like because everyone always talks the high ground has the advantage. High ground has the advantages, right? They're busy telling you that in that Star Wars prequel all the time. Oh my God, we get it. The high ground has the advantage. But like now it's like no, literally they're picking them up. They're it's like a whole. They can't even get to them. So in this case, it actually is shown rather than told, which I deeply appreciated just from a art of war sort of style, right? And then also just tagging on that point, Jared, what you were saying, some people were really bummed out there was any CGI used in this at all. I'm a big detractor of CGI, especially in modern blockbusters, but I think it's when it is used, it's used pretty well. And it's used in an interesting and creative way, which it can be done.
Yes.
The one thing that I found kind of like that really kind of tripped me out, they slowly kind of CGI'd Anya Taylor-Joy's face onto the little girl because it starts off as a completely different actress and she looks more and more like Anya Taylor-Joy over time. And I'm pretty sure that they did a composite where they slowly kind of changed the face of it because the girl kind of her face changes over a course of the thing.
But so do humans. Like so do human children. Yeah. I mean,
it was an interesting use of that kind of compositing. I think. Maybe not. Yeah. Maybe I'm just bugging.
Look at a picture of me as a child. I look like a perfect little idyllic angel. Look how I turned out.
and I just want to shout out Isla Brown also played young Tilda Swinton in 3,000 Years of Longing. So she plays interesting looking women's younger version.
Yeah.
I feel like there's something about Anya Taylor-Joy that's always reminded me of Tilda Swinton. Like they have a similar kind of translucent, like kind of ethereal look to them that I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah, it's the eyes,
I'll admit it. I didn't necessarily find Anya Taylor-Joy that hot until this movie. All right, I can see it. But like, sometimes she's just too.
We'll update the tracker, the hot or not tracker. We'll update.
Well, there's a point in this movie where she's driving the fucking war rig and she's really going like, and you see her like face go down. And I was like, okay,
she's a badass. Yeah, I mean, like it's
Oh, come on, you missed New Mutants.
Everyone
it's like, don't watch New Mutants. but she actually was really good at that, mediocre film. And she also looked hot. So, there.
Why are we
Yeah.
just? What's
She's had a very interesting aura around her ever since like The Witch. I mean, I think that was her first film.
Excuse me, I think you mean Vivitch.
The Vivitch, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like, some people just have this really magnetic screen presence, and she's definitely got it, especially because she has like 5 lines of dialogue in the whole movie.
Right.
Yeah.
That can be bad.
It's just all like pensive staring, but like it's so compelling the whole time.
She's well cast in The Northman, where she's once again like the sorcerer witch lady. Like it's perfect. Yeah. Oh yeah. The Dread Pirate Roberts. That's in relation to the Mad Max being like
the archetype thing,
archetypal character of history rather than a specific person.
Every time I see her, though, I always think of the time I was at a artist studio, and my kid was telling her about our cat, and she wanted to see a picture of our cat. So I showed her a picture of our cat, and she looks at the cat, goes, "Oh my God, his eyes are too big for his head." And that's what I think every single time she comes on screen. It's just that voice in my head yelling that, because she has huge eyes, and they're just really just proportions.
I want to see a movie where it's Tilda Swinton and it's Anya Taylor-Joy, and Tilda Swinton's like the mother and she's the daughter, and they're both vampires. Like I would watch that. I would watch.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, Elliot Brown. Why not?
Only lovers left alive kind of thing. But
it's
like,
but it's a mother-daughter situation. Yeah. Okay.
I would watch.
Yeah. But I wanted to talk about a lot of the cinematography in this, and I know Jared's a big cinematography head, does that for a fucking living, freelance videography stuff. A lot of the cinematography in the battle scenes almost reminded me of like Call of Duty, which I thought was sometimes they try to do that in movies, and I touched on this in my intro, and then the intro fucking crapped out, but because I had the actual shots from it, but like especially in the battle scene where they go to the bullet farm, right, and they're taking on Dementus for the first time after he takes over the bullet farm, pretty much, and they go in there, and there's an entire sequence where it feels like you're playing it feels like you're watching somebody play Call of Duty, or you're playing Call of Duty yourself, and they're going through the thing. It's like real battle footage. Like it's pretty incredible. It's almost like you're watching somebody run through like Mosul or something with a GoPro on their head or something like that. Like it's incredible the way that they shot it.
Yeah, it really is like such a blast visually, and distinct from Fury Road too. Like, not to be like the human Wikipedia guy, but like this was originally planned to be an anime, and it was written at the same time as Fury Road. So knowing that going in, you can definitely see like where the influence came in, because it's a lot more dynamic. It's a lot more not artificial is not the word, but it's a lot more curated, I guess. If that means
it's visually not meant to like look as realistic. It's more like kind of fantastical,
stylistic. Is that
stylized?
Fantastic, stylized.
Yeah.
Battletoad footage, exactly. Steve.
Right. Yeah.
From the documentary Battletoads. Yes.
I'm just about to Furiosa being like, Furiosa! Like, and then she just has like a power come out of her hands or something, and they're like, whoa! Like,
heightened. That's the word I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But no, it's just like just a feast visually. Like, I mean, Miller's always been one of those guys who just like right out of the gate, like he just got the language of filmmaking, especially action filmmaking, and it's just like, if not for Fury Road, this would be like the magnum opus.
Yeah. He's like a doctor or something too. Is that right? Like if I remember correctly, like an actual.
He was a doctor. He used to run an EMT, and like that's where he got most of the inspiration for Mad Max, was treating all these injuries from people who were not exactly safe on the road.
Right.
And
that's wild.
Well, and they added, which once again putting Melbourne at the center of it. He was running his EMS service out of Melbourne when the OPEC crisis happened. He was going on a lot of ride-alongs and working on that.
Sure.
And
yeah.
So Australia obviously has this long history of people don't really whip out guns. So there was like a 10-day period between when the OPEC crisis started and when somebody finally whipped out a gun and started firing into the air to try to get everyone else away from their fucking they're like gas. You know what I mean? Like they have a
Right,
bunch
and
of,
that like led him
yeah.
thinking like, what if like that was like a permanent situation?
Yeah.
How
And
would
then
people
just keep
react?
going.
Yeah, which is crazy because I mean, yeah, I was technically alive for that, but I was very busy being a child, so I didn't know anything about it. Nor did I care about gas prices. But it's
you're in California, which is like at the center of the.
I know, right? Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I would have been traumatized. I think if I was you in California, because that's like you still see the pictures of people waiting online for gas, and those it's rough. It's specifically California.
I see signs for like 4.50 a gallon. I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah, try touring, friends.
Yeah.
when you get like 17 or 18 miles per gallon.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Buy extra merch at the next show you see. That's all I gotta say.
I always notice still whenever gas prices start climbing and they're like, oh, there might be some kind, because they do that all the time. They're like, oh, there might be some kind of shortage, or like we might be getting into trouble here. Like they always try to heighten kind of stuff around that, especially around the elections. I always notice they go to California first. They're like problems in California.
Which is it's literally always expensive. Like I mean, like it's one of the most expensive gas prices in the world, let alone in the country. But like, again, it's just what it is, and it's something you got to deal with. I do think. Well, and it's funny because didn't we? No, we were mentioning water when we talked about Fury Road with Kira, because Jared, we did Fury Road a billion years ago. I brought on Kira from Black Flag, who worked on the sound department and won an Oscar for it. So that was really cool. But we were talking about like her and I being both native Californians. Like the certain aspects of things that kind of permeate throughout culture and stuff like that, and scarcity and things along those lines. So it's interesting to see him pivot, Miller in this case being the him, towards like water scarcity, which obviously is much more of a concern as we have this completely unaddressed climate crisis going on. That there's other things that are also a treasured resource, which is one of the reasons why in Fury Road with the Immortan Joe's like what is it, water system, his waterfall,
aquifer, I think.
Whatever you call it. Why that's so important, and again, but the other side of it is shown in this, which I think is great, which is the tactical advantage of people that are driving around, roving around these little like motorcycles and like souped together like Mad Max mobiles, which is what everyone thinks an apocalypse is going to be like now. Unfortunately, it's like it's not going to be anywhere near so cool. Just so you know, not going to be that cool. Also, you're not going to be the hero of the story.
No,
but
you're going to be one of the people in like you're going to be one of the people that's like attached to the fucking horses, and they're like
right. This means drawn and quartered, or like the at best top dollar best the war boy who doesn't realize that you just like led this entire pack of marauders like into your area. Which,
well, to be fair, he has an arrow in his head.
right. Exactly.
But I think just the corpse in the car. That's
right. Exactly. That's the lead.
I always like the theory that all of this just happens in Australia and the rest of the world is just fine.
Everything else, it's Star Trek everywhere but Australia.
Yeah,
I had that thought watching through the original trilogy, because the original trilogy, it's clearly all in the fucking Australian, like the outback, and it's like, well, why don't we just leave the outback? And it's like, well, there's probably like looking at how America handled the OPEC crisis, like it clearly isn't any better there. You probably want to go. You probably want to go to Saudi Arabia or somewhere like that. Like that's where you'd want to be in this crisis, because it's like they would have just enough reserves, and then they'd start, throwing more people off the roofs. But if you could get there right in time, maybe you could make something happen for yourself.
Get a nice little bungalow. Yeah, good.
It'd be funny. It'd be funny if Saudi Arabia is just the same, and everywhere else is like,
Yeah.
Well, and it's there isn't quite as much of a stranglehold as there was back in the early 80s and 70s for oil, but obviously it still is. There are at least the idea of alternate forms of conveyance and things along those lines. But I think getting back to the resource availability, look back at the very beginning of this, right? The first chapter where you see like the very young Furiosa and like the land of plenty, I forget what they call it, but like the
green land,
which
green place,
like how awesome that as a child you see her like not only like get away, but she's like, oh no, I'm gonna like sabotage these dudes' conveyances so that they can't narc out on us and like bring people in. Like that's like, and we're talking like minutes into the movie that you're gonna be like, oh, this kid like knows what's up. This kid like is.
They could have that other kid. That other kid would have broken immediately.
Oh, that other kid is like, yeah, just stay here.
I mean, she did become a badass in the second, in the next one, but we're not there yet.
We're not there.
This isn't her story.
More of an arc, yeah.
But I love that you kind of know immediately in that way that I'm usually disdainful of the children acting like adults kind of trope, right? But in this case, it's like, no, this makes sense if you think about like how she would have been raised, right? And she's not all there yet, but she's a lot of the seeds of like what were to come are there later on, up to and including like a little later, where she's got like, and I thought this was going to feature more heavily, where she shaves her head and she got the wig to get away with. And I was like, oh, that's very clever. That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
And that line too about that's not hope, that's instinct, kind of also kind of, just shows other people reacting to it's like, oh yeah, no, she's got it.
You know why that works? I think to have her be like an adult, like badass warrior, even as a kid, even though she's learning, right? Like, I think it works because she doesn't talk. I think where a lot of times, where you lose patience with kids acting like adults is when they have like an adult vocabulary and they're like,
yeah, you're right.
Would vociferously like to come home to my domicile, and you're like, okay, let's
yeah, it's like it's so talky. No, I completely agree.
The fact she doesn't think shit, and then but you don't even really notice that she doesn't. Like, it took me to the second time for me to like kind of start counting out like, oh, there's like, she says like maybe 5 things the whole movie. Like,
right. But she's got that kind of survival instinct that clearly, that is, and again, shouting out the character played by, is it Charlize Fraser, right? She's only ever been in this and Anyone But You, which is amazing. It's like, wow, what a filmography. She's awesome, though. I mean,
yeah. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I mean, she's like a great template mother figure character, right? Of like if this is your mom, like, no wonder you're starting off being a badass. Yeah, exactly. Her mother raised her right. Yeah. Word.
Yeah,
go ahead, Jared.
Exactly. Yeah, I like it for what it is, just as much for what it isn't, because like it's like a pretty big trap for prequels, like to make the change be almost like too radical. Like I was kind of afraid like they would start her off to be like kind of innocent or naive or kind of like insulated, but I really like that she's already pretty much Furiosa from the beginning. Like you can see she's resourceful, she's fierce, she's smart, and
she picks things up quickly. She learns quickly. Yeah, absolutely.
She knows how to handle herself. So there's no like, they don't hinge the whole movie on that suspense. It's like, how does she become Furiosa? How does she go from this to this in however long? And yeah,
in fact, there's entire chapters that you don't get because the movie flips around. There's like, in one second she's talking to Praetorian Jack or whatever in the thing, and the next second he's like, okay, I'll help you get home. But you realize there's a time jump between those two things. They're on a completely different run. They've got a completely different crew, and her hair is like, she has long hair by that point, and it's like there's been a time jump here. To some degree.
She's been training with Jack for all the skills that we see on display later on in Fury Road, but like also as part of her overall plan to get the hell away, like a long game plan. Like I saw people like complaining about that, and it's like, well, I think it's would be silly to be like, all right, she just figures it out like immediately. This like ensconced feudal system that like is, if you screw up once, then you're basically like thrown onto the Fury Road and or off the cliff or whatever. Of course you would have to like kind of sit back and like kind of figure it out. Like what are you thinking here?
Yeah. I also think sometimes confusion registers to audiences as anger or like annoyance. You know what I mean? Because like it takes you a little bit to think about those gaps in time, and that you don't necessarily see like her. You don't see like a Rocky montage of her being like. There's
no training montage, right? We expect a training montage, and I say that as a huge fan of Rocky and of training montages. There's not really, we get to, the training montages are holy crap badass action sequences. Like, can we talk about like the truck scene, like that, like, oh my god, like what a great, like, again, George Miller knows how to do action. like in a way that's is more compelling than a lot of people that do action.
You know what's
But
really
this
funny?
was especially badass.
So
Yeah.
George Miller, like specifically talking about this, George Miller's biggest, because he obviously made the original Mad Max for 4,800 Australian dollars, right? Like it's under $500,000. Like he really did not spend that much money on it, and it's pretty incredible for that, right? He made that entire action movie, and then realized that he didn't have the cameras were static pretty much the entire time. So he would keep the cameras at one point. He didn't really have his later thing, which he's like photographed all the time on like the on the trucking like system or like on a dollar. Like he's famous now for his like camera motions, and it's because of the first Mad Max he didn't do that. He didn't do that at all, and he watched it and he's like, damn, like this is actually the action sequences that I tried to film here end up being kind of boring because I keep the camera static and then the action comes towards me, or I keep the camera static and the action runs away from me, but I don't actually move the camera at any point. So that was his big revelation when he started doing Road Warrior. Like, it's time to fucking move this camera because otherwise I'm not. Like,
Right.
I'm like otherwise people are just and you could tell like in the original Mad Max, like they run away from the camera but the camera stays still. Like it didn't necessarily register with me until I heard him talk about that. But like you can see them running away and then they come back and there's like these huge shots and it's like, yeah, maybe follow them. Like maybe go along with them. Like,
no, unless you're trying to do like a Lawrence of Arabia shot or something along those lines, it's a little more compelling.
Which he was in a lot of these cases, but he did it in shots that definitely have no business being a Lawrence of Arabia.
Well, exactly. Yeah. It's not a one size fits all.
But it was his film school, which makes it kind of amazing that it ends up being a 5-film franchise because like it's like, all right, well, this is the first movie and I made a lot of mistakes making it, right? Like I made a lot of. This isn't what I wanted to actually do if I had a budget. This is kind of the thing that you bring to like film festivals or something to show them like, look, I can make a very good movie. I can make an action movie, but I need more money. So like he kind of just went along with that though and just kept making the movies. He's like, look, I'm going to tell you what happened in the second movie. And then you have like the opening sequence of the second movie where it's like, oh, this is all the stuff that happens. You don't know any of that the first movie. You don't even know that there's they're trying to get oil really. Like, you know what I mean? Like they have like a couple sequences where there's oil, but like they never really tell you that. And then the second movie, they're like, no, this world has no oil. That's what I was trying to say. And it's like, all right, well, now I know that, but it's taking an entire movie.
It's a finite resource, and you didn't know that before, Yeah, and...
Which, I mean, it literally is on Earth, too. Like, like in our Earth, you know what I mean? It's just that we haven't...
Still a finite resource. Pequoid,
but I mean, you see that deep anxiety still. I mean, like, number one, in America with Trump's promise that he'd make us, like, energy independent. And you see it with Europe, now that they can't buy gas from Putin, they're all freaking out about the amount of gas they're allowed to get. You do see that, like the obsession with oil as a finite resource, which I think is why Mad Max continues to like transcend as a franchise, and why it continues to be something that like as it's also evolved with other things like the water crisis, like it continues to resonate because it's like we still have that anxiety. Like that anxiety did not exist until the OPEC crisis for most people. Most people weren't like, oh,
because it seemed like like a resource that would never end, that there would never be like a bottom to the well, right? And that was the first time people were like, oh, maybe there is a bottom to this well, which is crazy to think about, but that's not our generation, right? That was a different generation that there was always going to be enough for everybody as long as it's there.
You just swim in the oil. I mean, it's funny because the people at the top of society knew very well that they had tapped out. Like at the end of World War II, there's a famous line from FDR where he's like, "If there's a third world war, we can't be the ones providing the oil. We've tapped as much oil as we've found." But that didn't transcend down or didn't trickle down, to the regular people that were like, "Oh, maybe I won't have enough to fill up my cars." Until 1973, when they're like, "Oh shit, what if one day I can't drive my car?" And
and then what's the first joke everybody makes when like there's like gas shortage, like, oh, I'm about to go all Mad Max on this, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like it's turned into like a immersion in pop culture that is tied to the unavailability of petroleum-based fuel, which is wild. It's absolutely wild.
I'm curious about though is like the sports shop situation, because that's not covered in any of the films, but somewhere between Mad Max and Road Warrior, all these people went down to like the local Dick's Sporting Goods store and raided the place and spray painted it on, added feathers, and went crazy. And like, well, I want to know that story. What are we getting that origin story?
Like most people don't have access to armor, like especially like fucking Australian outback. So it's like if you're gonna build armor, And
But they do have access to the sporting goods.
Yeah,
So
but
there you
they do it
go.
really well in Walking Dead too. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, you'll have people that have like hockey masks on, and it's like
Yeah.
this is not protecting you.
But
buddy,
like, they don't have ice in
you look
Australia.
cool.
They don't have ice skating in Australia. Like it's on fire half the year.
I'm just saying like
Okay.
that.
First of all, that
style
isn't the movie we're talking about. Secondly, that's idiotic. Thirdly, let's move on. So, I think
I'm really mad. I'm really mad at how I'm trying to find this. How funny I found this. Somebody during the pandemic did an oil painting of Mad Max, Mel Gibson as Mad Max, carrying the fuel, but instead they made it all hand sanitizer. So he's carrying
That's a good
hand
one.
sanitizer up a mountain. And
Sure.
I laughed.
That's pop culture immersion for sure. So getting real back to the Green Place segment and was it Charlie Fraser and all that? I think
they call it the Green Place of Many Mothers, which I think is a way cooler name than just the Green Place. Like the Green Place reminds me of like a smoothie shop. You have to add like they never said of many.
Can I get a wheatgrass shot, please? Thank you. Yeah.
I don't know. It sounds like an ice cream place in Northampton, though, right, Jared?
Yeah.
All right. No,
Could be,
on.
or like a pot shop or something.
Completing my sentence, what I was going to say is that I think the Charlie Fraser character who kills the woman who's like, oh, I'm a mother. Like, first of all, I think if Furiosa isn't there, I think she smokes her, and I think that would obviously end better for them, but also there wouldn't be a movie. But like, it's interesting that as ruthlessly efficient as she is, as a warrior and as a mother and whatnot, that's the line that she won't cross, right? And I think that very interesting in the development of Furiosa's moral code. We can go back to talking about ice cream or whatever, I guess now. Sorry, I guess that's boring.
Okay.
But anyway, wheatgrass, anybody? We can all get some shots down to the juice bar. It's a bit of a drive, though, let me tell you.
Got some good wheatgrass out there at the Green
A lot of people talk trash on that intro piece. I think it's amazing, and I think it's really wonderful and like actually kind of really well shot and well done on its own right, and establishes Dementus more as a character. That do you need it? Probably not, but like it's kind of cool that you get like that establishment, and then it makes more sense, like that. Obviously, he's got his own. He lost people in his own life, including like his own children and whatever, and this and that before he decided to become the monstrous villain that walks as a man. But like you get a backstory that's actually earned and that you care about. I don't care about Piss Boy's origin story. I don't care. He's Piss Boy. That's all you need to know. What do you need to know about Piss Boy? Here's the reason why
they're in the name.
It's
that
all there.
That
It's
whole
right there.
generation, they kind of just half lives. Like they do what they're told.
Right.
Yeah.
the lackeys, minions, henchmen, whatever. They have an establishing characteristic. Sometimes it's a goofy name. Sometimes it's a weird predilection. We get it.
I do find though, with like the Green Place, right? Like I find it fascinating that there's that distinction between like, the few people that are like full lives, like Furiosa, Furiosa. And these strange like war boys and like Half-Life character. Now I'm thinking about Furio in fucking The Sopranos.
Furio, yeah. All right, go ahead.
The Furiosa, like those are like full lives, and then there's like all these weird fucked up Half-Life like that nobody gives a fuck about. They're like I mean, they're probably not going to last very long anyway. They're all radiated and stuff. And there's such a huge difference between how life is treated for those full lives. I mean, no pun intended.
And how Immortan Joe's like obsessed with having a full life heir, right?
Yeah.
To the point, like, I mean, look what he calls his kids. Jesus, I mean, like, tell us how you really feel. But I think that also like there's a lot with
it's brilliant that he has a whole bunch of different other kids that are even more fucked up in Fury Road.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Yeah, it doesn't go well, right?
There's the one guy that was I think he passed away unfortunately, but he was like a little person, and they had him. He was one of the kids, and then they had him like as like a Jabba the Hutt style monster kind of thing. And I remember that kid in Fury Road. That's the one that like stuck out the most. I was like, damn, dude. You're not. I don't even. It's not even shooting blanks. I don't even want to know what you call it.
Like we don't know what happened to Scrotus.
Shooting mutagen.
Do we?
No, we don't. Maybe could be a spin-off, a Disney Plus streaming series.
Yes.
The Adventures of Scrotus.
They could also be demoted down to being just war boys, right? Like the war boys are also.
It's a workplace comedy about Scrotus and the lower levels of the base.
Scrotus is the Michael Scott of this universe.
It largely takes place around a water cooler, but instead of water,
they send them to not
piss boys involved. That's all I'm gonna say.
Right, they send them not to the bullet farm, the outdoor, really industrial place. They send them to the management office of the bullet
management
farm, where they keep the invoice. They're invoicing that shit.
And Scrotus has got a button-up shirt, but like the sleeve only goes down to there, and he's got like the half tie, and he's just like sitting around in the bullet farm administrative office.
He's like
hardly working. Yes.
Productivity is down, 67% of the bullet farm. And I chalk that up to the water shortage, but. You're gonna have to speed up production.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's great.
George
Miller, we're right here.
The difference between at least in the beginning, like the Dementus character and Immortan Joe, who we know by now, right? Like we know his we know enough about him that we don't need a whole backstory because of Fury Road. I find it fascinating that Dementus has like this kind of almost like a Marxist, pseudo-Marxist thing. Where he comes in and he's like, give me your leaders, right? Like I want, because he knows that there's always going to be somebody, like a very few people at the top, and then everyone else kind of just serving them, which is the case here too. But they've indoctrinated them with a fundamentalist ideology and kind of created their own fucking Taliban, their own ISIS, pretty much.
Which goes back to what I was saying too about Immortan Joe. Doesn't even talk to the people that much. He has people for that. And that's like his crier that's sitting there and is telling them the lowdown of all the reasons why you shouldn't mess with them that of course Dementus ignores completely, and then they get got really mad.
See another thing that was going to be in my intro, but my intro fucking crapped out. The original version of this was going to be filmed in the 90s before 9/11, or the original version of Fury Road was going to be filmed in the 90s before 9/11, and or the early 2000s, and they had Mel Gibson and they had Sigourney Weaver was going to be the Furiosa character, and they hadn't written it out yet. But then 9/11 happened, and then so they couldn't, they were going to film in Namibia, so they weren't doing Australia.
Oh, right, sure, yeah.
And then after that, Mel Gibson did his whole thing.
Yeah, we remember. It's fine.
Yeah. So by 2015, though, there's such an maybe not anxiety, but there's such a fixation on the fundamentalist part of the War Boys, which it's not any specific. I mean, it's some kind of weird Norse religion,
Yeah, because they're like acolytes expecting a great afterlife if they die with
in
service of right.
and they drug them up just like they do in Afghanistan or places like that where there's a lot of opium production. They drug them up with the fucking the chrome, and they jump out of the thing, and they're willing to sacrifice themselves because that's they're going to be in Valhalla. And I feel like there's such an anxiety about fundamentalism, just not just in the Middle East or not just in just throughout the entire world now. Right?
It became more pronounced after 9/11 for sure, but it was always there, and. Yeah, what a different movie if it would have done pre 9/11. Would have been a different movie if it had been done 10 years earlier. Yeah. I mean, I think that there are some things that are sort of
a different movie if it had Mel Gibson in it versus Tom Hardy.
Sure, but again, just because Mel Gibson's a bit of a trash human being doesn't mean he's a bad actor. I mean, he's a good. He's a good actor.
I mean, Mel Gibson's a lot of the original Mad Max's thing is he's very. I guess the word is loquacious. He's very talkative, right? A lot of the thing is you're going along with, which I think is actually not makes the. I'm not going to say not as good, but the original trilogy of Mad Max, you're all right, this guy talks a lot. He's always He's always getting out of situations by being maybe I'll do this, maybe and you're kind of in the narration of Mad Max as he slowly kind of loses his mind and then kind of regains his humanity, I guess. In the case of
which is Tom why Hardy, I think that Tom Hardy is better because he barely talks, right? He doesn't even want to give Furiosa his name in that movie. That's not the movie we were discussing. I think that's actually an improvement. I think it makes him more badass personally, show us, don't tell us. Jesus Christ, it's the Wasteland. Just put the pedal to the metal.
But I mean that brings you back to like the original, which is why this is a far superior prequel, because it seems like what they end up taking out of the original Mad Max is just, oh, so I watched for 90 minutes and like this could have been a flashback if you really like had planned it out. Like so he lost his wife and his kid and his dog and his aunt or whatever on the farm. Like that's really all you end up taking out of the original Mad Max. Like none of the like besides Max, none of the characters crossover, none of the other people crossover.
He clearly agrees because he basically said, we don't need any of that. Like who cares? Yeah. Who cares about any of that stuff? Is Toe Cutter or Immortan Joe? Who cares? Doesn't matter.
But in this, within the first, like where the point of comparison is for me is that in the first 20 minutes, right? Furiosa's already lost her. Like you have her. You know why she's taking not just vengeance. She's trying to build on, but like throughout this movie specifically, right? Like she's taking vengeance on fucking Dementus for killing her mom. But they dispose of that. They dispose of that scene within like 15 minutes, like rather than 90 minutes of.
Well, and. You know, like there's something to be said for the George Miller sort of world of bringing in like a character that's just like, oh, that's so and so, they do this, okay, and like nobody like questions it, and nobody, I don't know what that means, and nobody really interrogates further, because like let's be clear, in the Wasteland, it wouldn't be like, oh yeah, your name's Andy World, cool, what's your entire life story? No, nobody cares. Like they just want to know, like, are you gonna haul this piss or not?
He would tell you.
Yeah, I'm ready. Like finally, the moment I was born for.
One of the things I have severe anxiety about seeing dogs die in movies. So like I was looking up there, like, does the dog die? Every Mad Max movie, a dog dies. Like they always kill the dog.
Do they? I mean, the dog lived in 2, which that dog actually.
No, the dog died.
No, they shot the dog in 2. It goes.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
The dog in real life had a happy ending because that dog was going to be killed, euthanized, and got adopted and had a nice long life.
Well, good. He deserved it. He did a great job at it.
He was a good dog. Yes.
Yeah.
But anyway, just saying it. But in this, like, you even see the dogs. There's like that really great cut where they're like, "How are they tracking us?" And then it's like the dog that you later see with one fucking leg that they've that's just literally tracking them. They have the bloodhounds, and that scene, like that cut for me was like, holy shit! Like in the beginning, this is like they're tracking like.
Yeah, it's like old school. Jared, you were gonna say something before that whole dog?
I was just saying, like, I love the just the naming system they have out there in the Wasteland.
Yeah,
you got Scrotus, you got Rictus, you got the Octobus, you got Smeg and
right, exactly. Yeah. The whole you got the whole crew. We got them all here. What do you need?
You have like I mean Toe Cutter obviously, but you also like humongous. Like George Miller's always had a great. I think it's evolved. Like Scrotus and like Rectus are like the best fucking names he's come up with. But it's definitely like he's always had this very scatological kind of or like visceral style.
Well, there's also like the organic mechanic. Where'd that come from? That's amazing. That's fantastic.
Yeah. The people eater. That tells you everything you need to know about the guy.
Yeah, right? Exactly. What's that do? I don't want.
Whoa! He's the people eater.
I think of though. I like my brain has to think of the Rocky Horror line. I'll get you a satanic mechanic, and I'm always like, who the fuck is that? Who's the satanic mechanic? But maybe he got the wrong card, and he's like, oh, the organic mechanic. This is.
That's way better. I mean, it's no chum bucket, but you do what you can. Also, like Praetorian Jack, like that's a great, like he has a great way of being, Imperator Furiosa. Like they have these like honorifics, if you will, right? That it's like, wow, that sounds cool, and it's like that's not. It sounds like impressive or like like badass, even if you don't actually know what Praetorian is, which of course that's like the Roman army.
It's like such a jumble of historical names, kind of like misremembered English in a way.
Right. Well, which is what it would be. That would be in the Wasteland, right? There'd be like this degradation of a historical reckoning. So brilliantly deployed.
Mad Max has like its own language, I feel like, at some point, and they keep reinventing it obviously per movie because it's not going to be the same in every single community, but it seems like they have their own, like every movie kind of has their own language to it. And it's like, it all rings together in this strange way that like, you're like, this sounds weirdly right. Like this sounds like I know what you're saying. Like
Yeah, almost like a Clockwork Orange has its own kind of language.
yeah,
It
yeah.
does
And
it in this way. Yeah.
it definitely reminds like there's parts of this kind of the language parts of this kind of remind me of Clockwork Orange for sure.
Kid, he eats people. What more do you want to know? It's all there in the name, kid.
The organic mechanic.
Don't ask about Chum Bucket.
Well, the organic mechanic thing, right? Like he makes
the organic mechanic.
He makes the blood pudding. He takes the blood from Furiosa and he turns it into pudding. Like that's such a weird detail, but they bring up that detail multiple times throughout it. Like the one, like he's because and I think it's purposely meant to contrast with the way that Immortan Joe's using full life people, which is just like we're gonna try to impregnate them over and over again, and then the way that which is
to restart humanity in his own image, more or less. Yeah.
Which I don't even know. His own image isn't great. That's what I'll say.
No. I look like that would. It's gonna go one of two ways. Well, it's gonna go mostly one way, which is mutant death. But
I like how he's like the most mutated out of everyone, and he's like, why can't I have a normal looking kid?
Yeah, exactly. Well, but that's executive privilege, right? The problem has to be with everyone else, not with him. So how do you? I tried to bring it up and we moved off of it. The truck scene, like amazing. Like again, one of the I think I actually at one point called Fury Road like the greatest action movie of all time, or at least up there. But good lord, I mean the two big major sequences. There's the bullet farm and then there's the truck battles. Pretty amazing because you have like. The dude coming in on the parachute and the fan and like there's all kinds of these new vehicles. I mean, it was so jarring and cool in Fury Road to see like the poles where they're like boarding with the poles like pirate ships and stuff do, and using like pirate tactics and warfare like on the open road, and doing so in such an exciting visual way. And this is more so, and also you have like what is the thing in the back that's spinning around and it starts to get everything going. The kid's like, "Can we do it now? Can we do it? No, hold on." You're like, "Okay, that's gonna be badass," because they brought it up like 3 times. He wants
the bombing knocker.
Yeah, the bombing knocker. He's like, "What is that?" Because this kid / poor little person, like it's like his one job is to run that thing, and he's like, "Can we do it? How about now? And like, no, man, not now." And then finally, like, yeah, fine, do it.
So happy when he finally got the word at the end.
He's like, yes, yeah.
And then he gets shot in the head.
And then he gets shot. Exactly. Wah wah.
There's a
life in the wasteland, sure enough to break your mind.
There's like a wiki. There's like a wiki that goes through all of the things and tells you like what each kind of thing is. The bombing knocker is like an industrial sized death. What's sprung at the precise moment. It can act as a surprise attack that can wreak havoc and destruction to anything and anyone that dares to get too close. It's big, brutal bomb. They don't really tell you what it is, but it's like they have a like I think it's the thing that comes, like the drill kind of thing that comes out of it, and then that kid just gets wrecked right away. Like
I mean, it's his life's ambition to like unleash the bombing knocker. It's like, oh,
you had one job.
So great for him. But I mean, what do you guys think about the sequence? Jared, what do you think about the sequence? Apparently, we're going to talk about just the weapon, but I think that sequence is amazing, right? I mean, it's like...
I mean, yeah, it's one of the... It's the highlight of the movie. Like, it's just insane that it exists, let alone that like they were actually able to film it and not kill anybody through that whole process. I read that it was like a 78-day shoot just to get that sequence in and of itself.
I believe it.
Which makes sense, because you don't want to kill a couple hundred people while you're doing it, but just like absolute. Just
what is this? Fitzcarraldo?
All-time action sequence. Yeah,
they really made Anya Taylor-Joy, who was I have a video where she talks about this, so I can play that. But she the entire time, right, like she's working out, she's trying to get ripped for this movie. She's trying to figure out what to do. And they actually made her hang off the bottom of the rake the entire time, and without they didn't like lend support to it. So she said like by the end of it she was actually jagged. She's like, look, if you really want to get jagged, just hang off the bottom.
Hang from the bottom of a war rig. Well, and that's such a because at first I was like, is she sabotaging it or is she just like stowing like what? Like I didn't quite understand what was happening the first time I saw it, but like I like the idea of like, well, they know that there's going to be marauders on the Fury Road, and they know that they're going to attack the vehicle at the weak point. So you have these people who are like, not even like pit crewing, but in flight, while driving, changing things out and like repairing things, and they got multiple engines so that like one of the engines fails and they get I like that you really see the literal mechanics of that, and that it requires people to crawl underneath the undercarriage while they're driving, which is crazy.
The strongest point of every Mad Max movie, I think, has always been the sequences where everybody's fighting on, whether it's the the road or the Fury Road, or like, those have always if those sequences are strong, which they fucking were in this, but if those sequences are strong, there's a lot of like things you can forgive within like the plotting of the movie. Like Road Warrior is a perfect example of that. Like there's so many things you can forgive because it's like, this is like clearly the first road action sequence, and there's so many, and the more moving parts you have, like the better it is. So there's so many moving parts in this one specifically because it's like every time you have to build on it, right? So like during Fury Road, it's a lot darker and sandier, and I think that they did a good job with they really like turned up the saturation on this one, so you really see what's going on within this whole thing. They're not really kicking up these clouds of dirt that it kind of made it hard to see exactly what's going on in Fury Road, and like you're watching this whole thing transpire, and it's like I'm kind of lost at some point to this. Like, all right, so this guy jumps off the thing, he's here, this guy's on the hang glider, someone else is there. Oh yeah, there's a guy back there that we should have seen a while back. All right, you got to get that guy. And it's like there's so many moving parts by the end of it. It's like this crazy sensory overload. Yeah, that I like that really works for me if it's done right. But if it's not done right, I feel like that's like the easiest. Like if they did a bad version of that, like the end of fucking.
It's almost like a Jackie Chan fight scene. Like those things can be so well choreographed, and it's not like some of the lesser martial artists where you have like a group of guys just standing off of the corner of the screen waiting for their cue to come in. It's well orchestrated where like there's this fluid motion of going from character to character to character to character. Each person's playing their part. It doesn't matter which side they're on, and you lose some of the people, and like it's kind of you get like the one guy who wants to push the button and doesn't get to, and
well,
just like life,
99% of the people in any of these situations. No, I'm just saying, like 99% of the people in any of these sequences have to be disposable, and because of that, you have to keep throwing people into it, which is where I think a lot of the confusion goes. So like each time I think that they really do a good job expanding that, because now you have people on hang gliders, which it's kind of funny to see this movie after the whole October 7th thing where they came in on hang gliders, and it's like,
really the paragliders and the fans,
but in this you have literally you have like 10 different people paragliding in, and then they're all shooting from machine guns, and then you have that going on while you have the cars next to it, while you have they're literally in the top of the car and an entire crew, and then you're losing each member of the crew. Multiple of them are on the bottom of the rig, including like the Indian guy that had to go down to fix the thing that catches her peeing underneath the truck earlier on, which is a very funny line. Reminded me of the Amazon trucks, where he's like, "Oh, why are you peeing down there? Like, you can just pee here. Like, it's fine." But like, there's just so many moving parts to this entire thing that if one thing goes wrong, I think if one thing is not believable, which I'm not saying that any of the ones that I've seen are, but I think Fury Road, one of the problems with it is that it was too dark. Like it was hard sometimes to see, like literally, I mean the visuals of it, right? Like there was
like literally too dark. Like, okay.
And I think I'm not saying always, like definitely not always, but there's times in that movie that if you look at the two sequences side by side, even like the Immortan Joe, the Citadel, right? Like if you look at it side by side, and I'm gonna grab this dog and get her out of here in a second. But if you look at the two side by side, right, like it's much easier to see the Citadel in this one. Like they did a lot better job with the coloration, because it's like I can't really see what's going on in some of the parts in the Fury Road.
Which is great, because like within Fury Road, like it's this sort of like, it's a known thing that like there are these other places, but you don't really see them, right? All you really see is like you see Morton Jack's crib, and everybody is they're going to like the green place, which is like she remembers from as a child. So it's nice to actually see Gastown. It's
she should have brought the human Alexa to map it out.
Exactly. Human map quest, right? Sure. Any of those work, but I think that also no, I forgot what I was gonna say. I think that there's a lot to love visually with all of that, and I think that there's a greater depth in showing how all of that, how the vehicles like work, which is cool, because like if you're like within Fury Road, it's like it doesn't matter how the war works. It's like, oh my god, what is that thing? That's crazy. And I keep thinking of like pre-Mad Max. What was there that was like vehicular, malfeasance, right? I mean, there was
Death
Duel.
Race 2000.
Death Race 2000. But that's everybody's like, it's a game show. It's not like Malevolence. Duel, which I don't know if anybody. It's an early Spielberg movie. Are people familiar with Duel? Do you guys know that?
Yeah. It's been forever since I've seen it, but
yeah. So there's like this guy. And there's like this doing a massive tractor show. There's harrying him like everywhere he goes. And it's written by Richard Matheson, the guy who wrote I Am Legend, of which they've made 3 attempts to turn into a movie. And all 3 of them suck in very unique and different ways. I've like gone on about before. But that was like 71. And then Mad Max is 79, right? But then like after that comes out, and especially after Road Warrior, like if there's vehicles and they're like people are the gold standards, you're comparing against like some aspect or degree of Mad Max.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's hard.
I think maybe Bullet might be the only other thing that Bullet and what's that one where they chase?
There's car chases, sure, but like
but it's not quite the same.
It's not like this dude is clearly trying to kill you with the vehicle, and like you are outmatched within this situation.
There's Road Games too, I think, with Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
I vaguely remember that, but
I would say like inspiring.
That's Australian too, isn't it? Road Games, right?
It is, yeah.
Goddamn Australian, they're freaking
inspiring, like
maniacal drivers.
A lot of
the
open
original
space.
Mad Max, which Road Warrior builds on this incredibly. Like Road Warrior, takes it to a whole nother dimension. But I feel like the original Mad Max is inspired by like Easy Rider and like the plethora of like biker movies that came after it, right? Where and then Road Warrior obviously builds on that to an insane degree, and there's nothing quite like that. But it's like Easy Rider, Bonnie and Clyde, like all of those kind of gangs that are kind of doing these car chases or doing these motorcycle chases type movies that were happening in like the late 60s, early 70s. I feel like inspired the beginning of something like a Mad Max dystopia, and then it's like, okay, how can we turn this to like an 11? Like, how can we really just turn this into like they're constantly doing this? They're tricking out the fucking bikes, they're tricking out the cars, they're doing it to such an insane level that like we're creating these new vehicles that nobody's ever seen before. Yeah.
Well, because with Duel, it was just like, look, semis are huge and they could like flatten you like a pancake. What if a dude was trying to do that, right? And like that's basically the conceit of that movie. And then like Death Race 2000, it's more of like like this game show aspect of things and like human life not being valued, yada yada, ad etc. ad infinitum. But then you also, I mean, like because like if you think of something like The Hitcher or something, right? That's about like someone you led into your car. This is literally the car is the danger. The car is the danger and is actively trying to kill you. Not like we're racing to a thing. It's like they are actively trying to kill you with it.
Yeah, because I think the book Christine came out before this movie.
Well, that's the most literal interpretation of that. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean,
the only other I could really think of, but the movie came out after this movie. So
after Mad Max.
Yeah, no, it came out after Furiosa. They're working on it right now.
Right,
they actually are.
Yeah.
There's also definitely like a
83
panic kind of in like the 70s at the end of the 60s after the Manson murders and stuff, right? Where it's either hitchhikers or it's biker gangs that everyone's like, oh, these people kind of hang out on the road and try to hop into either your car or they try to hop into your bike. Or like
that's Road Games, right? It's been forever since I've seen that, but isn't that like there's like a serial killer like butchering people on the highways and stuff like that?
Yeah, there's a lot of those kinds of movies around the 70s. Like they get really into like the idea of like the slasher drifter kind of guy that like because of this like heightened anxiety. And I think the first Mad Max really plays into that kind of thing. And I mean Clockwork Orange too is another movie that is like that same kind of like roving gang situation. And then I just feel like by the time it's Road Warrior, it's built on that so fucking much that it's like, holy shit! Like the road is the actual thing, right? Like the road is the stage for all of this to occur, and that's the case throughout all of human history, really. Like, roads are like the important thing, and if you can't get through the roads, like the only way you can really control a society is if you control the roads. In the early days, right? And it's like thinking through that and thinking through how many different ways that you could have somebody now that it's not like now that we're not living through like the time of like the Mongols or whatever, and we're living through like we have cars and trucks and hang gliders and planes that you can do the little tricycle wheel thing with, like in like in Road Warrior. Like, how many different ways are there that you could literally just dive bomb? Like, if you wanted to stop a shipment of something, you could just keep dive bombing it and dive bombing it and dive bombing it and slamming it and hitting it. And it's like, I don't know. It just makes my, I guess, reptile ape brain go kind of crazy thinking about how many ways you could like just slam a truck if you really needed to.
Yeah, so I think that war rig sequence is excellent, and then like just when you think it can't get any better, then they actually start up the Doogie, right? And it's like great, no notes. That was worth the wait. Fools are getting got.
there's one insane part of the war rig sequence that I keep wanting to bring up and then forgetting. Where she literally has to go all the way from one side of the war rig to the other.
Right? And
it's right after she realizes that poor little person got. She literally has to jump up on it, then go down shimmy down the pole that's like in between the two things, hop onto the roof, then pull herself down. Then somebody comes up behind her, I think, and then tries to like kill her, and then she has to shoot them, and then she has to duck, shoot them again. Then she gets thrown out of the actual thing. There's this whole sequence where it's like you realize how big that war rig actually is.
It's like the General, the Buster Keaton movie. I don't know if you guys have seen that. There's first of all amazing stunt work, and Buster Keaton was the Tom Cruise of his day. In fact, they did all his own stunts. But like, it reminded me of that Buster Keaton movie. But like, obviously, much more vivid and violent. But like, because there's a whole scene where like for whatever reason he's trying to get from like one point of the train to another. He's like moving debris off, et cetera, et cetera. But it's the same way where you're just like, oh my god, you have to get like, you see the distance and you're like, there's no way. Like, how are you going to do that? And then but you're assured by the characterization of Furiosa that, she'll figure it out because you know that she's clever. You don't need to explain to you, I am going to go here and here and here and there and there and then over there. She just does it. And you're like, I believe that she can do that because I've been shown this entire movie that she's incredibly perceptive, that she's wily, et cetera, et cetera. It's
it's one of those training things too, right? Like after a while, like you have to get really good at. It's like an obstacle course in a way. Like you have to get trained to actually get trained to kind of do something like that. And it's like it takes you kind of back to the whole Call of Duty style shooting they do later in this, where it's like you have to actually watch her shimmy go through the thing, and you realize like she's probably at this point she's probably done it like 50 times, like in the world of this movie. But obviously, if you just saw that over and over again, you'd be like, all right, well, why am I watching a broad get from one side of the truck to the other over and over again?
Right. Like that goes back to like in this case, that's a very different movie. You don't need to see the training sequence, right? Like it's assured that like, look, they've been doing this for a while, long enough for her hair had a chance to grow out, right? So, that's great. I think that's awesome, and I love the the other big sequence with that involves like a rocket launcher and whatnot. It's like that's all great. That's all earned. There's the classic trope of see if she's over there, and then like some person gets shot. Like it's like that's it works here. It doesn't seem hacky, but I always enjoy seeing that. I can feel like I saw that Blazing Saddles or something. I can't remember, but anyway.
I mean, like everything in the movie is so well paced and earned. There's not a point that really takes you out of the movie, which I thought was great because
it's immersive. It's like it's like a fairy tale or something, right? I mean, it's seriously, it's like a fairy tale for adults.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like even when it takes those like tonal swings too, like it still feels believable. Like like in that opening sequence when her mother's chasing those marauders to the desert, like there's this one guy who gets like shot in the head, falls into the sand. And you just see his legs sticking out like Wile E. Coyote.
Oh, right. Yeah, very Looney Tunes. Like yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of
never feel like it breaks the rule or anything.
It's kind of fascinating to me that I mean, not the biggest fan obviously of the MCU, but the movie that I think rejuvenated it and got me the movie that kind of got me interested in going back kind of to watching more of the MCU movies was Thor Ragnarok, right? Like that's kind of because it was like a lot of these movies are like at that point we're overly serious. It's like, all right, let's make one that's kind of both like batshit crazy and funny. And they brought in Chris Hemsworth for that, obviously, and he kind of fulfills that same role in this with like a lot of the levity and the jokes, right? Like are all either at his expense or told by him or like theatrically told by him. And it feels like that's one way to, I guess, rejuvenate like a a series that's had or like a franchise that's had a bunch of movies at this point.
Because I guess there could be a reality where like the villain is just like a heavy. He's just a heavy. He's just villainy. He, what he likes doing, waking up and doing evil. That's But then it's also the classic thing of like every villain is a hero of their own story, right?
Yeah. In Mad Max, the closest we've gotten to that is Immortan Joe.
Yeah.
Like throughout that movie, it's just like there's no point where you're like, this guy's pretty funny. Like he's never told a joke. And
it's not as
have
to put him bluntly.
He's probably never heard one.
Right, exactly.
But like the first one you ever heard is like Dementus, and he's like, I fucking hate this. If anyone tells any more jokes, like
if this is the joke, I don't like jokes. I felt that way about stuff. Sometimes on this show.
But like, so for another movie.
I'm sorry.
Another movie of just Immortan Joe though being bad and being like a heavy that's like a good heavy, but like another movie of just kind of that.
People trying to work on their tight five from Immortan Joe, and they'd be like, have like a secret passage that like platform that shoots them down into the.
Well, it's not just him that's serious. He has his own version of the guy that like the Dementus version of the guy is that silly like cross-eyed fucking weirdo that keeps like smiling at everything like he's on meth and doesn't really know what's going on. Like, and then obviously the History Man is like his other version of that. And then there's like this goofy kind of fat old man that's like the Immortan Joe version of that. That's like his guy that does that. And it's like
people eater.
Yeah, it's just like none of like that guy's not funny. Like there's no levity in that room. He's just like, I'm gonna make war plans, and Immortan Joe's like, I can do a good job with those war plans. And it's like, all right, like I need somebody to fucking lighten this place up. Like that's what Dementus does for this universe.
Yeah.
That's what makes it compelling too. Like yeah, he's evil, but like he's charming. He's got charisma. Like you can eat like he's played by a movie star for a reason. Like he's got that kind of contrast.
And I feel like it's a big reveal that Immortan Joe is not the villain in this case. It's him that's really the, like because throughout the entire thing,
absolutely,
like it kind of the entire time you're like, all right, well we're back in this Immortan Joe world and it's Furiosa versus like the Immortan Joe family, right? Like that's what I'm assuming from here. And it's like, oh no, like actually it's like Dementus is the fucking villain in this, like the arch villain, and they're actually kind of on her side this time because they can get rid of the guy she hates more than anybody in the world at this moment.
Which
and then,
I kind of like that since it's Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga, that there's the whole 40-day war, and I was like, and then there was a 40-day war, and I was like, oh. There was just, okay. And then like, it didn't go well for Dementus. But like, when you look at where you are in the movie and like what the importance is to Furiosa's narrative, it makes sense not to like get into as much as like, look, I'll read a comic book of that or like a freaking, anime, I guess. Sure. Like whatever. Sounds great. That sounds awesome. I'm totally into that stuff. But for the sake of making like a relatively tight narrative, all that matters is like how it advances Furiosa's story. And how it resolves with Dementus
only works because of the History Man, like those sequences, right? Like it works best because of that,
right? Because if you think he's just like a cheap one-off gag now and again, it's like no, it works because like this is the guy that's been like telling you all about this stuff. That again, it's all up to his like memory, whether it's about motorcycle facts or like how the 40-day war like went down. It's all this guy telling the story, just like the Romans, right?
Yeah.
So.
Which is
it goes back to the what Andy was saying, the unreliable narrator thing. Too.
And George Miller's played with that before in Road Warrior. He played with that with like the guy at the end of the story. And he's like, and we never saw him again. And it's like, this is a terrible ending to your story. So you don't know
you don't know where he went? Yeah.
You see that guy at the beginning of the next movie, and it's like, I thought you said you'd never see him again. Like.
But yeah, it goes back to the fact that each movie kind of contradicts itself in a way. The timeline doesn't quite make sense. Like if you really start to think about it, and a lot of people have put way too much thought into what the actual timeline is in these movies. It's like,
did you say contradictator, by the way? Because that seems like that could be like a George Miller honorarium,
Yeah,
that's the arch
contradictator Andy. Yeah,
that's the arch villain in like I guess that's the hero. That's the hero in the Reagan universe. He's like contradictator, right. Get him.
Yeah. I was thinking contradiction plus dictator, but sure. Let's take that one.
No, I like. there's 15 years supposedly between this and Fury Road. So she's kind of just chilling for the next 15 years, I guess. Like this is over a certain period of time, and there's like a jump, and it's like she has to get her little squad together, which is cute. Like she has her, you see it at the end. She's like, well, now I got a bunch of people that I can bring to the green to get some wheatgrass at the
right to get some wheatgrass shots at the green place. Right, exactly. Well, and that's some people did not care for that as like a post-credits sort of thing, but it's like. This is a prequel to the other movie, though. So, like, whether it's on the screen or not, that's like the next thing that happens. So I wasn't.
Yeah, nothing else really matters. It's just it's telling you her origin story.
Yeah.
And
what else really fucking happens in those 15 years?
There might have been like a cool run, but like, who cares? It doesn't matter. It's not important.
Yeah,
he's Immortan again.
Well, yeah, but stories are not encyclopedia articles. You know what I mean? You don't need every fact. You don't need every incursion or interaction. Like it's people say that they want that, and then like there's movies that do that. Like, oh, it's too long. Oh, amazing. That's cute.
That's cute. Yeah,
that's awesome. War Pup was the name of the character.
Yeah, no, Bomby Knocker War Pup.
Bomby Knocker War Pup.
Yeah.
There we go. There it is.
But Bomby Knocker War Pup, and I'm here with another great Twitch stream for all of you.
Well, because there's also like spin-off media and stuff that if you want to like read all like there's there's like a comic book I think that like tells this like how Immortan Joe became Immortan Joe, right? And that like how he ended up in the aquifer and turning that into the Citadel and whatnot. I'm like, okay, cool, but like. I don't know if I need that. Like I'm, it sounds interesting, but I don't know. Like I kind of like that you have to sort of just be like, yeah, it's weird that we don't know anything about the bullet farm. How the hell did it become the bullet farm? They just find like a deposit of lead and like, hey, wait, let's make a bullet farm here.
Yeah, or some kind of like I guess it could be like a manumissions factory. Like,
maybe I don't know. I mean, but it doesn't matter. It's the fucking bullet farm. It's in the goddamn title. It's like Planet of the Apes. What do you think it is?
They're like we have this manumissions factory in the middle of the outback. We didn't know about this, but
yeah, exactly. What happens at this farm? What do you think happens, moron?
you put bullets in the ground. You're like, why are they not growing?
Yeah, oh yeah, we grow them up.
Well, I do kind of. This film feels very geographical. Like you really get because you do see Gastown.
Yeah,
which, I feel like things really pop off at Gastown. You know what I mean? Like you're like,
hey, like it, yeah.
It's like gas. Yeah. Well, there's gotta be like a strip of bars or something that everyone's like, yo, I'm partying at Gastown. But like
Gastown, gang.
The Citadel, and then there's a bullet farm, and you never really understand any of the geography, like because it just in Fury Road at least it just flips between them. Like you do see the Fury Road obviously, and everyone's fighting on it, but like this movie feels a lot more geographical in like how it situates all three of those places.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, like I feel like with Fury Road, the actual like geography of like what the Sam Hill was going on and where they were going kind of was almost an academic concern. They're trying to get to the place to do the thing. It's the MacGuffin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think here it adds a new level to the story. There's like, okay, there's 3 locations that serve these important purposes that are resources that everybody wants to get. And if somebody gets these resources, then it allows them to have power in this certain way and so on and so forth. Like, it's logical, right? It's what people said that they wanted more of from Fury Road, which like, yeah, you know what we want more of this perfect action picture is like more backlog. Okay.
More maps.
And I think also that's the strength of George Miller coming in, like knowing what each of these films needed. So
right, because you're right, because they're different needs. Totally, absolutely, yeah.
And to tell the story, he needed to give you the location. He needed to kind of give you the layout of this of how these 3 communities work together.
I think it also that everything's so degraded by the time it's Fury Road. Like those 15 years have not been kind to any of the locations within this, right? Like, so
especially the war rig.
Yeah, it's so everything's so fucked up by the point of Fury Road that you're like, all right, like I really needed this. Like the sun is out and it's bright and it's shiny and I kind of can see where everything is. By the time it's Fury Road, it's like people have been going down this road for so fucking long that it's dark and you can't really.
It's kind of like jacked up.
Yeah.
It's like one of the roads here in Milwaukee. Let me tell you. No, but I think that it makes sense too, because you're getting, it's like you said at the top, right? You're getting a little like glimpse into like, here's when civilization fell, like it sounded like this, et cetera, et cetera. This is why resources are like so vital, and there's these hordes at varying levels of badassery and competency that are just running around. Everyone's trying to scuffling around trying to like get theirs, and then it makes sense that there would be these like petty despots and warlords that they kind of come to prominence and power, especially if you have something like what eventually becomes a citadel of like, look, I got the water, bitch, what are you gonna do?
Well, you even look at like a flourishing. Like,
I have the higher ground. Yeah.
Well, you even look at a flourishing kind of country like China in the early like 1900s, right? Like after the dynasty fell, and it kind of went into like their period of like their like
the warlord period.
Yeah, literally the warlord.
That's actually the name.
Exactly. It's called the warlord period. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like with like Wan Shikai or whatever, like the big warlord that they were like all like
right. Wong Kar-wai.
Yep. They literally divided up China into like warlord fiefdoms in the early 1900s, and it's like you don't think about that being like a time like, because if you look at like a picture of like Shanghai at that time, right? Like it's a beautiful city. It's like a beautiful modern city, like anything in the United States. And then it's like, oh well, if you go over here, like there's a warlord that's still there. It's like a war, like what? Like
warlord? What are you talking about? Yeah, warlord.
So like you can see how fast these.
I'm more of an Octoboss kind of guy, as evidenced by my subtitle.
or I mean, even like Afghanistan in the 1970s, right? Like the beautiful modern cities, and then war kind of ravages it, and then warlords pop up. Like you do see how fast those kinds of things can happen, and it's like, yeah, why not every other fucking place? Like they all have fucking warlords and like roaming gangs that are like the Vandals or whatever, trying to sack Rome, and probably everybody in fucking Rome thinks they're the hero of their own story in that thing too, right? Like you probably don't have at least.
I've seen Gladiator. That's exactly true.
By the the time it's Fury Road, I think everyone's so degraded and like kind of everything's kind of so falling apart and like dark and kind of crumbling that it's a little bit different. But like in this movie, at least, like you can see why you would want to be in the Citadel.
Yeah.
And like
absolutely.
There's tons of food. There's like to the point where they're like, oh well, you can have this many more potatoes. You can have this much more water. You can have this. Like they're really their rations are pretty big. In all of those things, they're like, all right, well, you guys can have this much more food, and we'll bump up your rations by this much. And it's like, damn, like, all right, I can see why you'd want to be part of you wouldn't just want to be like the guy fucking going around, like,
right, trying to scramble for scraps, yeah, get a straight foot. Yeah. From the comments, George Miller also needs to show you the green place of many mothers because you need to see a place of hope and a place that Furiosa wants to return. That's correct. Because otherwise, it'd be like, why the hell does she want to get away so bad? It seems like you got all the resources here. Just kill that guy. Take it over.
Yeah, because in the sequel there, it's the green spot has been taken over by it's in like a marshland now. It has people with stilts, and they don't explain it. That's great because. Right. We don't need to know why, George Stiltman over there is on stilts.
Yeah, who knew that's where Stiltman from the MCU showed up too? But he started a whole society.
Damn, it's getting deep. And we got to talk about how she made a star map on her arm, the same arm she cut off when she was captured, thus cutting off her connection to the place.
Yeah, I like that because, again, when we're talking about memory and we're talking about who records history, right? Like, and that's kind of thing where like what you think of as a child for like distance and location is going to change as you grow into adult. So it's like very astute of her to do that, but then also crazy scene, by the way. And the first time her arm gets jacked up, you're like, oh, and you're like, oh, that's where she lost her arm. Like, no, it's just jacked up. Don't worry, there's more. And it's like, oh my god, like there sure is. Like it's like, oh.
And she immediately heads to what's now home. Like the Citadel's now her home, clearly, and she starts just building a new arm, and it's like, okay, like
just like Bruce Campbell in Army of Darkness.
Yeah. Exactly. Actually, relatively close to that, which somehow we've never covered, actually, which is crazy. So anyway,
because now I just wish she crushed the cup and going groovy.
I like also like, as someone that's kind of squeamish and that had moments in this movie where I was fucking extremely squeamish. Like I do not like seeing maggots. I don't like seeing maggots. Like I have it's so hard.
How terrifying in that sort of like, well, I don't want to hang out there sort of way is that whole little like sub basement.
No, the lady's like, no, it's fine. Just hang out.
No, it's fine. She's like, no. No, I'm out.
That's one of the few moments.
Stranger danger. Get out.
Because I watched it twice for this, and I had to skip that part the second time. I was like, no, not doing
horrifying. And she's all chill about it. Oh, just hang out. You like it here? No, I really won't. I guarantee you. I'm not going to do that. But that reminds me of something I was gonna tag earlier.
What I was saying with this though, you don't see when she rips off her arm, which I appreciated. Like
right.
Like you just see the arm hanging out there, and that's that moment where
you see her walking away, not doing very well.
You see her just heading out. Like, all right, I'm gonna head out, and her arm.
We get the idea.
Yeah. What I forgot to mention with the proto Citadel versus Dementus' people is that like it's crazy enough when like the vehicles are getting hooked and bringing it up, but then there's the people that like pop out of the tunnels and like are grabbing at her and stuff. That's horrifying too. The whole like, there's just people like hanging out on this lower level. They're like, great, let's go abduct a child. Great, right there.
Again, it's fucking crazy that they shot this movie before October 7th.
Yeah.
And like,
but it's.
But there's like its own style of like warfare almost, right? Like its own style of like, I guess subaltern, like
subcutaneous underground warfare. Yeah, I mean it's like chuds take notice. Yeah. I don't know what they're doing in that maggot room. Looks nefarious to me.
They don't. I don't think chuds handle dirt that well. If you ever see the boots that they wear, it's like brand new Timberlands or whatever, or like brand new cowboy boots, never been actually muddied. You're like, come on, man, like you're not.
You're talking about the okay, yeah, sure. I got it. Acknowledged. Listen, Letterboxd is a place for film lovers to talk at with each other about the movies that they love, maybe the movies that they didn't love, the movies that they excessively thirst posted about multiple driving characters. Look. Everybody gets to have their say. It's a bottom-up democracy. Everyone gets to chime and opine in about the movies that they love. And, of course, all is this best done succinctly. Keep it succinct. Keep it small, just like that fellow that really wanted to deploy the weapon in the back of that rig. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I was going to say, it better not be any thirst posts about him.
How dare you? And these are collected weekly for the movies that we cover, and then we put them on screen, talk about and react to them. These are the Letterboxd one-liners for Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. Let's go. My mom did not have a positive reaction to Chris Hemsworth's prosthetic nose.
See, you gotta get conditioned by watching Maestro. So then that nose, you're like, you know what? Way better nose.
It's like nose aversion therapy.
Yeah,
it's distinguishing,
Yeah, exactly.
You got to watch Nosferatu.
There you go. There it is.
There we go.
All right. Thought we were going to back away from it. You were wrong, baby. In my mind, I think Praetorian Jack lived happily ever after, writing letterbox reviews in the Wasteland.
Be nice.
That'd be nice. I like Praetorian Jack. Was it great?
Yeah. Seems like a cool dude.
I'm just imagining his one-word letterbox reviews.
They're very succinct, yes.
Yeah.
Good. Mid.
He would get picked. He would get picked every week because he'd have the best one-liners.
I also really like looking at the graphic that I decided to pick for this. I love that Chris Hemsworth looks like a Sonic character with those glasses on, and the looks like the fucking villain and like Dr. Eggman or whatever in Sonic. The glasses and the stance. It's like,
yeah. What I like the whole red the red motif being because like the flare blows up, right? It's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna run with this now. I'm the red guy. Okay.
Yeah, red Dementus.
I wish they told you about the color, because there's red flare, there's black flare, there's a blue flare. Like, I wish we knew more about the flares that they use.
Okay, no.
There was a black flare, there was a red flare, and then on the
why's it got to be a black flare?
And then on the back of the truck when they first go into battle, there's the same black and red color on one of the trucks in the front. I noticed.
I did not need to know more about the flares personally.
No,
but
yeah.
I went on a Reddit thing, and I was kind of.
Dear Reddit, I need to know more about these flares. Ask Jeeves.
No, someone else was on, and they were talking about well, we don't know we don't know why they're different colors, but they could have a different meaning. And I was like, well, I wish we knew.
We have a Reddit. I haven't logged into it for a year and a half. I don't even know what's happening there. Probably nothing.
Yeah, I go on Reddit occasionally, but
Car insurance rates in this universe must be fucking insane.
I'd like to think that the people eater actually was a car insurance salesman, which is why he has that nice suit with the nipples cut out.
Sure.
Yeah.
They never really explained the nipples, did they?
No, and he's wearing a totally different outfit, and the other one. So it's like what is his fit in this movie?
What's the deal with this guy?
And by the way,
he reaches ultimate climax when they rip the nipple plugs out too.
Yeah, I was just about to say, like, how does he brush that off?
All right, there we go.
Doing
it again. We're doing it again, people.
What? He orgasms. He goes, oh, and then he's like, you should know not to do something like that to someone with a fucked up brain, and it's because he liked it. I mean, maybe he's pretending to like it, but he did.
Rating would be higher if the movie had more piss boy. I love that guy. What's his origin story?
See, somebody wants to know his origin story. Maybe you don't.
I know. I made it specifically called it out too. And I said I didn't want to see it. Look, it's not my bag, baby.
He's just an Amazon factory worker that made it to the.
It's like, finally, my moment to shine.
My time has come. Speaking from personal experience from living in a hot place, the heat will do that to you. That's for Kristina.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, R.I.P. Kristina.
Shit would be so much easier if I was just a war boy. No phone, no Instagram.
Just living in the moment.
Just living in the moment.
Kinda.
Exactly.
I mean, kind of. Like, you're thinking about Valhalla.
Thinking about Valhalla.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you get to do the nice huffing.
We have Valhalla at home.
You can have a nice huff.
But you only really get to do that huff at the end, right? Like that's the last huff. You get like your blood of Christ, your cup of whatever. And
I would kind of wonder if like the stand-up comedian who's doing a site 5 for Immortan Joe is just like, what's the deal with huffing?
Yeah, that was a redacted scene, and we thank George Miller for that. Has the only acceptable and effective use of truck nuts that I will ever see. Testify.
Yeah.
For now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, wait till you see the Blumhouse truck nuts horror film coming out.
Or it's just the next version of like Barbie. It's just truck nuts.
Truck nuts. They suck. Meet my son, Scrotus. That you walked over it. Meet my son, Scrotus.
Yeah, the guy that makes the truck nuts.
Yeah, exactly. Scrotus.
That's what his job. That's what his job is when he gets pushed out of the family.
His friends call him Scrot.
Whenever Scrotus isn't on screen, they should ask.
They should ask where Scrotus is.
Where is Scrotus?
The boys are all here. Scrotus, Toe Jam, Chum Bucket, and of course Piss Boy.
Out of every franchise, I really do think that George Miller, like Mad Max, has the best names. Really, they don't give a fuck, right? Like even just the name like Dementus. Like, all right, he's demented. Let's just call him Dementus, and it's like it works.
Yeah, it's in a lesser movie, it absolutely would not.
Well, the same thing with Humongous, right? Like it's like, oh, man, you're the Humongous. All right, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Like. Never seen anyone act so nonchalant after getting their nipples ripped off. Yes.
He was into it.
Exactly.
He was into it.
He was just, it was a weird vibe.
Remind me not to play poker with him.
I'm not here to kink shame, but he did seem relatively blasé about it. Yeah. Look, those are the Letterboxd one-liners for Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. Please follow the show at Movie Night Extra, where we're logging stories from all the great movies that we cover. With additional content, links, all that good stuff. You can see all that there. Piss boy over there. At Always Flacco is logging stuff that we do in this show and so much more.
I logged every Mad Max.
I saw you that you did. I actually, if I had not been so busy, I probably would have rewatched them because I honestly haven't seen like the first few since I was a kid. So
yeah, I think I saw them with my dad when I was a kid, which is why he was so excited.
Oh, that's peak watching with your dad movies, for sure, 100%. Yeah,
yeah, I watched it with my dad.
But then your dad turns to you and goes, Mel Gibson wasn't totally wrong about that. No, I'm kidding.
No, come on. I am at Conan Neutron on Letterboxd, the Octoboss, some may call me. Follow me for the Criterion Challenge, for the Film School Dropouts Challenge, and so much Film School Dropouts Challenge, and a whole lot more. I'm on Letterboxd, and I am doing those things: highbrow, midbrow, populsphere, all that stuff. The Contradictator, J. Andrew World, is down there, logging a lot of Doctor Who episodes and all the spy rom-coms and all the weirdest stuff, so you don't have to, or maybe so you can. Not for me to judge.
I finished the Seventh Doctor, by the way.
It's like you finished him. Like
no. Although he did have a one. That's another story.
I said I wasn't here to kink shame. It's fine.
I finished watching all the Seventh Doctor episodes. There's not that many of them.
So is your Doctor Who journey ending with the original run?
I'm going to actually go back because I didn't realize this, that Tubi has the Lost episodes restored.
Oh, the ones where they did the animation and all that?
Yeah. So
okay,
I'm just like, cool. Okay, fine. I'll finally watch, really dig into.
They really twisted your arm on that one, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all I needed.
If you want to see that, that's what Contradictator down there is up to. Follow him at RadByNow too. Jared Skolnick is on Letterboxd as well. Is it just your name? I should have looked this up.
It is just my name. Yeah, I should have put that down. But,
okay.
Yeah, just look me up on there.
Cool. Contradictator, please take us away with the plugs, why don't you?
All right. If you're watching us on YouTube, please do those YouTube things like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell. And of course, the big ask we always have you do is watch the video to the end. That allows other movie fans to find our content. But that allows you to hear that great new Conan Neutron song. Well, not new Conan Neutron song, but it's a new video to go with it. So
there's a new video to go with it. From the comments, why not watch the episodes in chronological order by when they're set? That is a bold thing to suggest for a show that's been around for 40 years, 50 years, I don't know, whatever.
60. It just turned
60 at this point. That's right. Yeah, 60 years.
Yeah.
But there was 10 years it wasn't happening. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta find.
That'd be wild.
The weird stuff from the 80s. That
some nerd. There's a Reddit thread that made a watch order thing for that. That exists.
I could
look
find that.
If there's I want to know more about the flares in Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. There's definitely a watching order that's chronological for Doctor Who. Thank you. Anyway, go on.
If you watch them all, you get to unlock the magical eighth, 9th, 10th, whatever fucking Doctor they're on now. And it's like a trans man, and then you see a British person's head just explode. They're like, they
already did that. Jodie Whittaker, they were generating Jodie Whittaker, and all the worst people in the world got really mad about it. And it's a shame that season is written so weakly because she's a great doctor. But
she's coming back, by the way.
And now it's a black dude, so the same people are like, I'm mad about something different now.
Yeah, who dances and wears a kilt.
Oi, what's all this, love?
Yeah, no. But if you're over on Twitch,
I didn't know BBC stood for it. Never mind.
Yeah, thank you. You interrupted me for that joke.
That was the one he did. He's like, I'm doing it. Here we go. It's happening, people. It's all happening.
It
was the Warwick secret weapon of that bit. Yeah.
We're watching us over on Twitch. Please throw us a sub. If you happen to have an Amazon Prime account, you can subscribe for free. Doesn't cost you a penny, but actually really helps out the show. But please help us in all those ways. Find us on social media. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, Threads, and now TikTok. So you can catch little bits of this show where you're not having to watch me do the plugs.
Maybe that's all it's going to be.
Yeah, well, just nothing but me doing the plugs.
I already said I'm not going to kink shame you, so hey, whatever.
Hey, right. Plugs volume 50,000 or whatever.
Yes, we have a Discord, so go find us over on Discord. The link is in
that I can actually vouch for, not whatever it is Andy was talking about earlier. But the Discord's very good. People should join it. I know it's a new thing and people don't want it. Well, everyone tells me, they send me messages about how they're not going to join the Discord. I'm like, great. Well, it's awesome and you're missing out. Sorry.
Yeah.
Boy, love, I'm not going to join the Discord. I have enough Discord in my life.
Exactly. If that's your concern, it's not that. I don't know. Yeah.
My wife and I get into so many arguments. I have enough Discord in my life.
We also have a Patreon.
Charge on through, Andy. That's the way to do it. Yeah. Yep.
Yes. Patreon.com/Movie Night Extra.
Yeah, hit it.
Exactly. Yeah. Go there. That lets you get access to our after party.
Get the money.
But yeah, you can see if you like how unfocused we are right now,
I don't.
The after parties. The after parties are us not talking about the movie, or sometimes we are. But sometimes
Free flowing conversation. We'll say.
I just realized last night that I've had a Conan's Patreon in our description, but didn't have our Patreon in our description.
Hell yeah, that's right.
I rectified that, and
Money.
I scrotified that too.
Yes. Speaking of Conan's Patreon, that's connected with his podcast, Platonic Reversal, which is
we gotta announce the last thing. We gotta announce that the Alex Cox thing.
Yes, that's
right. Yeah, director of Repo Man, Walker. Yeah. He's coming on. He's coming on this show.
Was it Straight to Hell? Was that the name of the movie?
Straight to Hell. Yeah.
I've seen that one.
Yeah, so he's coming on Tuesday. We're gonna be talking to Alex Cox. I'm stoked about that. He's making a new movie, I guess, huh? So that's
making
cool.
a new movie. We're gonna talk to him. It's gonna be a little bit, I think, of a different format because, I think he's covered enough stuff that he's done. But we're gonna talk to him about his new movie. We're gonna talk to him about some of his old stuff. Probably talk to him about his soundtracks. He's put in some of his movies because
the idea of punk rock filmmaking. Because remember that was like one of the early things we kind of like dug into. And like Alex Cox,
Sid and Nancy. But I mean, the Repo Man soundtrack is legendary in punk rock circles.
Oh my God.
What's one of the better?
The way that he financed Walker was Straight to Hell, and he had literally just everybody from Courtney Love to to Joe Strummer to like just an insane amount of famous punk rock icons. Shane MacGowan, like they were
Xander
all
Schloss.
Yeah, they're all
from
in,
Circle Jerks.
And he just made a movie without really even having a script. Like they just all hung out in a fucking Western, like a fake Western town, and made like a fake Western kind of movie. Or I guess it's the real Western, but like they made their own version of that, and it's insane. And that's how they financed Walker, where Alex Cox went to Nicaragua.
Right, at the time of the Contras and all that. Yeah. Anyway,
he used the Sandinistas as his film crew, which is kind of crazy.
Right. So tune in on Tuesday where we're going to be talking to Alex Cox about all that, as well as the multiple version of Circle Jerk songs on the Repo Man soundtrack. Thank you.
Yes.
These guys used to be cool, man. I never got to talk about that movie. You did that before I was a regular on the show.
Yeah, it was like the third episode, if I remember correctly.
Sure was.
Yeah. But you were in the second one, and I wasn't. So there you go.
Exactly.
But Conan,
there you go. What is that? What are you proving? Well, what is that? Never mind. Move on.
Conan was on the third one. The third one was Conan and Jason.
Okay.
And then the fourth one we did was Repo Man.
Okay.
You just got snap corrected your own damn self, didn't you?
Fair enough.
I just know that off the top of my head because it was like the year 3-year anniversary of third episode.
Yeah.
So I had that.
That's
I
right.
didn't bother looking it up. But Conan's over there fronting for Platonic Reversal behind
fronting.
him.
I'm never fronting. I'm always.
Well, you're right in front of it.
I am in front of it, but I'm not fronting. Yeah, correct. Platonic Reversal, my show, long-running, over 10-year podcast. Thursdays, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific. Steve Bartek from Oingo Boingo returns this week for the second part of a very awesome first part of the conversation.
Hell yeah.
Sure, we'll be getting a little more into his soundtrack work with his partner Danny Elfman in Oingo Boingo and all that as well as Beetlejuice coming out shortly. So very exciting. Bartek's awesome. Got a lot of great feedback on the last episode. I have no reason to think this is going to be any different, but that's happening tomorrow at the time of this recording. So,
oh yeah,
weekly. 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific. Patreon.com/Platonic Reversal. $1 a month for advance access. If that's your vibe, that's the only tier I have, and it is a show that features the things I just talked about. So it's a music show.
So if it's not their vibe, they can just kick rocks.
Exactly. Exactly. That's it precisely. I'm also going to be on. I'm going to say this before I forget about it because it's not my normal plugs. On a This Is Revolution special with Catherine Rye-Jewell. It's called Live from the Underground. It's going to be a sort of post-mortem, I guess, of college radio and how things have changed in the past 20 years for music and musicians, and how bands like R.A.M., U2, Public Enemy, Nirvana, et cetera, all found success because of college radio, and how media deregulation and censorship and obscenity and so on changed that. So that's coming up Thursday as well. After my show, I'm going to do 2 in a row because I'm nuts like that. And that is the way that is. And then the Pop Life show where we call out the different albums by different years. It's going to be 1982. So was 1982 the greatest year of music? I hate that hook, by the way.
Yeah.
You will find out if you tune in on Saturday for that show, which is the, 6th, 7th one of these that we did. They're a lot of fun. It's mostly just it's all talking about records that came out that year and putting them in historical context. Probably the thing I do that is the least work of any of the things I do on the internet. But I've also been preparing my entire life for it. So there you go. And if you have a name for that show, throw in the comments, send it as a DM, because we still can't come up with one. It's just
not record of the year.
Banner. Record of the year? Like, Jason thought it was too long.
Okay.
I don't know. We need a short one too, and we don't have any ideas, so I don't know. So anyway, there's that, and then Conan Neutron, The Secret Friends, neutronfriends.bandcamp.com. My band, My Life's Work. Adult Prom is the latest record. There's a lot of leftover merch coming up, some new stuff coming up as well. Bunch of tour dates I can't say anything about yet. October in Detroit with God Bullies, though. I also did a one-off song with Vile Bees, the band Vile Bees, which is a PJ Harvey cover coming out on the 22nd, so Monday, in tribute of Steve Albini. That's the day that everybody's going to give remembrances, do things in honor and tribute of Steve Albini. Steve Albini recorded the great PJ Harvey on the record Rid of Me, and we covered a song off of Rid of Me, which turned out really great. So we've learned it, recorded it, and mixed and mastered it within the course of a couple days. It was part of a larger project run by Music Go Round Greenfield. It's super cool. And that's coming out Monday, unlike all the things that you find music on. And I think that's it. More Caterwaul videos coming up. We got that last Oxbow video. It's a multicam edit, right?
Oh,
so
I just watched it and it was so good.
Yeah. So if you are into Caterwaul or just Caterwaul curious,
yeah, that's a good one because it gives you a flavor of how different the music can be.
Right. It's not just one thing, right? And that's important to.
Because it starts off with a dude playing piano, and I mean
exactly.
I think over the weekend that's the only dude playing piano, but
Yeah, maybe. I forgot to mention. Subscribe to the Caterwaul Fest YouTube page for that. Forrest is actually editing a lot of those, so very lovingly, I might add. Mostly full sets as well. So you can, again, if you want to relive the experience, or if you just want to engage with it because you couldn't be there, both of those things are available to you. Very easy for free on the internet. Why is it for free? Because we're chumps. That's why. I was on KT Baldessaro, friend of the show. That's a weird sentence. What if I don't like it? Specifically to turn the tables on her about a movie she hasn't seen, which was my favorite movie of all time, Network, by Sidney Lumet, written by Patty Chayefsky. And it was a great episode, really great. I don't want to give a spoiler alert, but she's now evangelizing about the movie. And it's a very in-depth conversation, probably the most in-depth conversation I've ever heard on Network, specifically because it is my favorite movie, and I will talk ad nauseum, as J.G. Michael can attest to, because I've barely let him get a word in edgewise on that episode, on that crossover. So, again, the conceit is that she usually has a guest on and presents a film to them that they think that they wouldn't like for some reason. Jared, I believe you were on to talk about Goonies, right? If I remember correctly? Yeah. And basically, because you were thinking Stranger Things had kind of poisoned you against the idea of what it was, right?
It had been the combination of having not seen it as a kid, so I wasn't sure if it would be maybe too late to get the best of it, and just the nostalgia wave of Stranger Things, a show I unfortunately am not a fan of, but we'll get into that another time. The combination of that kind of led me just to be kind of hesitant to watch it for the first time, but I liked it.
And it's an interesting show too, because that's the conceit of it. You get somebody explains why they never saw it, what their concerns might be about it, and then they get the reaction of when they actually see it, right? So in this case, tables are turned on KT, and she saw Network on my suggestion, and it's a very long and in-depth conversation that I think is I'm biased, but I think it's pretty good. So subscribe to What If I Don't Like It if you don't already. If you are subscribed to this show, again, it's in the family. Right? It's in our Discord. There's a feed for it. You should probably be on it. It's like being like, what's the night shift? Come on, grow up. But I think that's it. But I'm podcasting every goddamn day, sometimes twice a day for the next week. So yay.
Yeah, I think we did cover everything. Because I think you blew right through Neutron Friends on Bandcamp.com.
Oh no, I mentioned it. I just mentioned.
Yeah,
that,
no, you just went right through it and on to the next thing. It was great.
People just tune out. You know,
Yep.
I get it. It's only my life's work. I get it.
I said it a second time just because somebody might not. So.
At this point, well, yeah. Jared, you saw us play with McCluskey, so you've seen us. Everyone's here seen the band. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's something that is worth paying attention to outside of the scope of this thing.
Absolutely.
If I wasn't on the show, I'd be there.
You're welcome. Discount Seth Rogen. You're very welcome.
If we were to take this week off from, this coming week off, and then Alex Cox was like,
But if Alex Cox, if someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes, right?
Yeah.
So I'm actually very excited for that, whatever that's going to be.
Yes. Kristina could not join us because her AC broke, but please check her out on Twitch, and of course, support her over at patreon.com/cosmopolitics. Jared, hire my dude for your next movie.
Yes, I work. I'm a filmmaker. I work mainly as an editor these days. So if you need someone to cut your film or documentary together, I'm your dude.
Yeah, and you're a very good cinematographer as well. Like, I know you haven't done anything out there with that credit besides your own stuff.
Yes. I haven't done a lot of cinematography lately, aside from short films with friends, but I do dabble in that a lot. And I've been trying to bolster my directing career, and just today I finished the final draft of the script that I wrote with a friend, and we're sending that out places. So can't say much more than that, but it's a good one.
Yes, and of course, in the meantime, people can catch Night Terror, which is your newest short film on YouTube.
It is, yeah. It's a fun little short about sleep paralysis.
That's right.
Yeah, that's available, and we actually have a sequel to that too. So if you want to check that out, they're both on YouTube.
Yeah, and you've done like 6 movies the past year, right? Or a bunch. So
6 shorts, yeah. It's been
some that's that just scare me thing, right? Or is that
it's a collective where people are given the chance to make a short horror film within 2 months. If you don't, then you got to pay $100. So nice little incentive to make something. And I've been doing this whenever I've been available to do so. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, so definitely check this out, because I've enjoyed quite a few of your films, even before you moved out to Hollywood.
Gone Hollywood on us. Gotten big and gone Hollywood on us.
I did. I sold out badly. But
it's a big horror.
Yeah. I've been working primarily in horror, so if you like those, then you'll probably like my stuff. So do check them out.
Let's also mention too, as Forrest mentioned, special Alex Cox episode on Tuesday, the 23rd, the normal slot. We're doing Lord of the Rings with Mike Moraski from Stipple Bathtub, who's the head of visual effects for those movies, for one episode on Tuesday the 30th. Looking forward to that. And then the aforementioned KT and Renee Ruin, our Australian correspondent, are coming on for a second conversation about the films, plural, on August 2nd. And then I think we're doing Deadpool 3, a.k.a. Deadpool v. Wolverine, coming up after that. So that. I forgot about Sunshine. Becky Rice is coming back for Sunshine too, which is an underrated Danny Boyle film.
All the promo I see, Deadpool and Wolverine seems to be getting along. So I don't know. The V. I mean, I guess we'll have to see. But
yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's Deadpool and Wolverine. I don't even know.
I went to
that V into something else.
I went to Kinds of Kindness in the movie theater, and they had the early promo where they're like, "Hey, turn your phones off." It was Wolverine and Deadpool, yelling at everyone.
Oh, right, yeah.
Like, taking me out of whatever this thing is gonna be.
Wolverine was getting super pissed about it and was trying to cut the screen or whatever. Yeah, I saw that.
I feel like this is taking me out of whatever horrific thing I'm about to sit through.
Really
this is far too entertaining. Yeah, exactly. I need the onslaught of misery with no end.
I was already tense because I had read like, oh, this is a movie of extreme cruelty, and I was already tense, and then I was like, okay, like I need Ryan Reynolds, get out of here. I need to find out what the fuck I'm about to.
I think you're lucky because I got like the trailer for like a guy dying and going to find his long lost love before he dies, and like that's the intro I got.
Well,
too.
I had several trailers.
Why are you shaking your hand like a politician? Like why were you're like, and that's how we're gonna get America working again. That's the intro I got.
I've been watching too much of the RNC
during that trailer. There was a bunch of different weird fucking.
Once again, audio listeners, I don't know what the hell's happening. What is happening? Sorry.
So there's a bunch of weird, crazy trailers before it of like different stuff that's coming out. Some of them were like comedies. Some of like because I was at Regal Cinema, so they really backload the trailers now. But then like the last thing that they do is like turn your phones off. It was like a 3-minute long Wolverine and Deadpool sketch, and I was like, okay, you know what? If you guys, I guess, but like I'm anxious for what I'm about to see on screen. But Jared, do you have some final thoughts on whatever movie we're discussing? I've lost it. No, Furiosa.
Furiosa.
Yeah, Furiosa. It's a fantastic movie. It's if you go in expecting Fury Road, it might not be quite what you want, but be open to what it is instead of what you think it will be. And also watch 3,000 Years of Longing because nobody has seen that movie, and it's also a masterpiece.
Excuse me, most of the panel has seen it and enjoyed it.
Oh, okay, good.
So.
Good. Most
pardon me. Yeah.
That's my thought.
Andy, final thoughts.
We kind of like started to talk about it and then veered away, but the cinematographer for this movie is a really interesting cat who's worked with a lot of Australian people, and I lost the screen.
Was it Garfield? Was the
no? Simon Duggan is his name. He worked. He's worked with in The Great Gatsby.
Worked with Chex Notes Garfield, the cat. Sorry, go ahead.
But he actually
he was painting lasagna. Sorry, I wasn't.
No, he was lasagna every day on his rider. What the fuck?
It's really, really weird. Anyway, yeah, cinematographer. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, no, he but like one of his first films he did was one of my favorites is Garage Days, and very really good sense of color in all of his films. I mean, Gatsby, gorgeous film. I can't say anything else about that movie other than it's pretty to look at. So
the Leo one, right? He
also
movie
did a batshit movie Knowing with Nicolas Cage.
Yeah. So he works with Alex Proyas a lot, I think.
Mostly Australian directors it seems like Proyas.
He worked with Scrotus. He worked. He worked with Dementus.
Oh, he actually with
Humongous. He worked with all of them, all the greats.
Yeah. He worked with Mel Gibson on.
He worked with Chum Bucket. Who can forget?
Toe Cutter.
Toe Cutter. Yeah, exactly.
So I just wanted to kind of shout him out because he really is quite good. Maybe because the movies aren't great, but it's the visuals.
The Piss Boy collab is coming up in the fall. It's a prestige A24 picture. Yes. Anyway. Yes, Andy. Mm-hmm.
But yes, there you go. Go check out Garage Days if you haven't seen it.
There you go.
Conan, final thoughts.
This movie's rad. I think comparisons to Fury Road, which I consider basically one of the greatest action movies of all time, it's understandable, but it's a bit unfair. I think this is another stellar entry in Miller's world, and that has to be one of the most best and enduring of the post-apocalyptic mythos of all time. I was a little skeptical of Anya Taylor-Joy's portrayal of Furiosa just because Theron's performance is so awesome. But I think she did a great job, and there's a stage of growth what is a prequel if not an origin story? And so you get to see how she becomes a paragon of the Wasteland. Chris Hemsworth and his fake nose eating it up. Great character actor villainy here. I love Praetorian Jack as well, another standout. Dark fairy tale for adults with an incredible visual flair. And I think that the war rig scene alone makes it essential viewing for anyone that loves action and spectacle. It's one of my favorites of the year. And I feel like this movie deserved better. And this movie deserved to be a huge hit. And there are other things that are doing really well. I'm like, really? That's the thing? And this movie seems like a stone cold layup. I don't understand. So I hope it finds an audience on streaming. Because it's badass.
One thing
people can watch on their cracked iPhone on the bus with no speakers on. Yeah.
Movies would always find an audience eventually.
Yeah.
One thing we didn't mention is that Anya Taylor-Joy was like, when she was auditioning, I guess it was like really not a very informal audition, because George Miller contacted her and was like, "Hey, I want you to audition for this movie." So during her audition that she was going through, he made her do the "I want you to get angry" scene from Network. That's
the Peter Finch. Why don't you get mad? It's one of the great speeches. And I mean, what most amazing thing about Network, which again, if you want to hear more about that, literally just listen to that episode I did with the KT, because we talk about it at length. There's like 3 or 4 of those types of monologues in that movie, and it's one of the reasons why
it's funny to make her do a monologue when she literally just says one or two things in this movie.
Yeah, well, she's probably more words than the entire movie, sure. Yeah, but it is funny because Network posthumous Oscar for Peter Finch for Best Actor up against fucking Taxi Driver and Rocky and All the President's Men.
I want you to get mad. I want you.
Where's that? Out your window.
Stick your head out.
I won't.
Stick your head out and yell, Adrian.
Anyway, I love Network, and if you want to hear me opine about that a lot and kind of convert KT over to the cult, listen to that episode. And that is one of the great monologues, just like how like Glenn Geiger and Ross has a couple as well. There's a few. There's the Ned Beatty one, which is astounding. And again, you can hear me sort of explain that to her, be like, there's going to be a part. It's going to be something that's a small part, but it's going to be huge. And she was like, you knew exactly what I was talking about immediately. And it's great. It's a great format, especially if you love a movie, then you get to hear people before they do it, before they know it, and then after they know it. It's kind of can't think of anything else that you get to hear that with. So it's a really wonderful format.
I still remember before I saw Network, my first introduction to the Network existing as a movie was literally the first second of Better Call Saul, where he walks into the room and he goes, "And you will atone," and then walks out and and he's like,
not UHF?
No. But he's looking around the room. He's like, no. All right.
There's an episode of The Boys. Actually, is the one that came out on July 4th, where the character who's like, the evil AOC character, right, as people reductively have said for that very nuanced character, not only homages the Ned Beatty speech, but like flat out like lifts a couple of the lines, like done out of love. But I was like, wow, how prescient. Also, a Faye Dunaway documentary came out on Monday, which is nuts because that's when the podcast dropped.
Yeah,
like on Max. So it's like it was like, wow, yeah, like we're astoundingly good timing for some reason.
It was like her life story, right, that she went through, and
yeah.
There's another. It was the Gene Wilder one that just dropped. I guess
Gene Wilder one's good. It's good. It's like not everything can be the Sparks Brothers. You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh my God, this like transcends the form, becomes art in and of itself. Sometimes it's like, cool, that was information about the thing I was interested in finding information out about.
That used to be just like like TV, right? And now it's like,
right.
Now they're like, all right, we can make it as a streaming movie. Like,
yeah, it's content now.
Yeah. But
I hope Furiosa does not become content because it's a badass movie, and it's.
I hope not.
I really hope that people.
Piss Boy live stream.
Now, Piss Boy's A24 movie. That's gonna be it. The origin of Piss Boy.
He's got his OnlyFans where he sells his bottles of piss.
Or
executive producer Scrotus.
They're gonna have a prestige.
Scrotus,
like
what I call
prestige HBO show just called Immortan.
Right.
Yeah.
Chum Bucket's gonna be there. The Octobus makes an appearance. Yeah, it's great.
It's him. It's his little gang. He's like, Scrotus, Scrotus, get on in here, Scrotus.
Can I say other than and audio listeners may not know this, other than Andy later changing his subtitle to Contradictator, which is a thing I misheard him say that was funny. At one point, we all had names of various like subordinate like henchmen, lackeys, et cetera, of this, because that's how like built in this world is. Right? They were like, I think that's amazing. Like, it's talk about like something so flat, like franchises that try to get you interested in ancillary characters. Like, I don't care about this and want them to go away. Like, it's the opposite of Miller's World. You're like, I want to know more about how did he become Chum Bucket. The world may never know. You know.
And Andy could have revealed the secret that his real name's Immortan Joe Andrew World. You know, could have done that, yeah.
There you go.
And with that, amazing.
That's it, huh? All right. Well, it's enough.
Not to dead name Andy, I guess. he's trying to get better. He used to be Immortan Joe, but he's a different guy now.
He's IJ Andrew World. Then he dropped the I. Then he's just J Andrew World. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll be back on Tuesday with.
That's it. Huh? All right. Hope Alice Cox wasn't listening to that one. All right.